Betrayed and nearly killed by those he held dear, Naruto Uzumaki is cast into another realm. There, he's taken in by the god of thunder, who sees potential in him and begins grooming him to be his successor. After years of harsh training, Naruto returns to the world that turned on him, but this time, he isn't looking for reconciliation. He's back for retribution against those who wronged him. Inside a dimly lit cavern stood 9 individuals, each occupying one of the 9 visible fingers of a massive statue made from an ancient, bark-like material. Among these 9, only 2 were physically present, while the remaining 7 appeared as projections. At the base of this eerie formation lay a red-haired teenager, his chakra completely drained, lifeless on the stone floor. The young man appeared to be around 17 or 18, with wild crimson hair, pale skin from death, and a tormented expression hinting at long-standing insomnia. He wore dark pants, a red long-sleeved coat with a tattered hem, and a dull violet-gray vest. The fallen figure was none other than Sabaku no Gaara, the 5th Kazekage of the village hidden in the sand and former host of the one-tailed beast, Shukaku. As a Jinchuriki, Gaara had endured scorn and fear from his own people, shaping him into a vessel of rage and bloodlust. He thrived on violence, believing it was the only thing that made him feel alive. For years, he took lives indiscriminately, some on missions, others simply to satisfy his growing bloodthirst. By the age of 13, Gaara had instilled such terror in his village that only his elder siblings were assigned to him, on direct orders from their father, the previous Kazekage. Even then, they were petrified of him. He had no qualms about killing them, and on multiple occasions had attempted just that during joint missions, forcing them to avoid sleeping near him at all costs. However, that cycle of hate began to crack 3 years prior during the Chunin exams held in the Hidden Leaf village. There, Gaara crossed paths with someone who challenged his beliefs and changed his view of the world. That battle altered the course of his life, turning resentment into newfound understanding. Slowly, his people came to accept and admire him. With their support, Gaara rose to become Kazekage and led his village with determination. But everything fell apart when the Akatsuki came. One fateful day, Gaara was ambushed by Deidara, a rogue Iwagakure ninja and a member of the Akatsuki. Though the young Kazekage fought with every ounce of strength to protect his people, the relentless assault left him drained and vulnerable. Deidara captured him and fled, taking him to a concealed hideout to meet his partner, Sasori of the Red Sand, another defector from the Sand Village and fellow Akatsuki operative. Before their return to Suna, Sasori deactivated a genjutsu that had long been placed on a key village advisor, his personal spy. With the spy awakened, Suna's defenses were silently dismantled, clearing the path for the Akatsuki's infiltration. As the mission progressed, they were intercepted by Gaara's brother, Kankuro, a skilled puppeteer. But the battle was brief and devastating. Sasori swiftly demolished Kankuro's 3 puppets and overwhelmed him with techniques he knew intimately, because he was the one who originally designed them. With Kankuro poisoned and broken, Sasori left him to die slowly beneath the blistering desert sun. Afterward, the 2 Akatsuki members regrouped and pressed forward with their plans. Back in the cave, one of the 9 figures, half light, half dark in color and resembling a carnivorous plant, turned toward a spiky-haired man. "Leader Sama, someone's approaching," the creature spoke. Pain, the one addressed, slowly opened his eyes. "Is it Kakashi's squad, or Might Guy's unit?" he asked the man known as Zetsu, who had an uncanny ability to move unnoticed through any territory. Zetsu shook his head. "No, not either of them. This one is different. It's someone we believe to be dead." The mood shifted immediately. Everyone, hologram or not, focused their gaze on the strange man. It was rare for someone supposedly deceased to resurface. Pain narrowed his Rinnegan eyes, those legendary orbs said to grant godlike powers, the eyes of the Sage of 6 Paths himself. "What are you saying, Zetsu? Clarify now," Pain demanded, power pulsing in his gaze. Knowing what that intensity meant, Zetsu hurried his explanation. "It's Naruto Uzumaki, the 9 Tails container." Pain's expression faltered for just a moment before narrowing again. "You mean the same Uzumaki Naruto said to have been killed by Sasuke Uchiha 3 years ago during their battle at the Valley of the End?" Zetsu nodded solemnly. "Yes, he matches the images in our archives perfectly. Plus, his body was never recovered. His name vanished from the summoning scroll in Jiraiya's possession, and the only confirmation of his death came from Hadate Kakashi and Sasuke Uchiha themselves. Pain considered the implications. No physical remains. An absent name on the summoning scroll. Too many uncertainties to ignore. You're right, his body was never confirmed. We'll wait. If this is truly Uzumaki Naruto, Sasori and Deidara, you will capture him and deliver him to another base for extraction of the Nine Tails. If it's an imposter, kill him and wipe out any Leaf Shinobi with him. Both assassins nodded silently. Oi oi oi, wait a second. A voice suddenly called out. It was Hidden, carrying his signature triple-bladed scythe. You seriously think the Nine Tails brat is alive? Come on, Leader Sama. Kakuzu, standing nearby, scowled at his partner. Shut it, Hidden, Zetsu's right. No one ever found the Jinchuriki's corpse. You might be more useful if you used your brain instead of running your mouth. Hidden glared at him. Say that again and I'll gut you, and that shark freak too. Kasame chuckled but said nothing, silenced as Pain raised a hand. That's enough, Pain said firmly. We wait. The one tail is gone and its host is dead. But the Nine Tails, if Uzumaki lives, it changes everything. As Pain spoke, a silent figure with crimson eyes looked toward the sealed cave entrance. If Naruto was truly alive, it meant his brother's descent into hatred, and the path of their bloodline could still be altered. Before a massive stone slab, two individuals stood side by side. One was a man with spiky blonde hair, piercing blue eyes, and three whisker-like marks etched onto each cheek. He wore a black shirt detailed with crimson lines, and on its back was a dark red emblem reminiscent of the Uzumaki clan symbol, but altered. The spiral was encased within a circle, surrounded by unknown runes that no ordinary person could decipher. Matching black pants and red-accented sneakers completed his outfit. The second figure was a striking woman with waist-length crimson hair and teal-blue eyes. Her lips were painted in the same red hue as her hair. Like the man beside her, she wore a tight-fitting black shirt and matching pants, with dark red shoes on her feet. That man was Naruto Uzumaki, once a ninja of Konoha and the son of Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze, the legendary Yellow Flash and Fourth Hokage. This was the same Naruto believed to have perished nearly 3 years ago after a battle with Sasuke Uchiha at the Valley of the End. Turning to the woman beside him, Naruto saw her focused on the stone that blocked the cave entrance, an entrance hiding unimaginable destruction. You ready, Rias-chan? He asked, gazing at the woman now known as his wife. That's right, Naruto had not only survived but had also married the woman at his side. Rias Uzumaki, once Rias Gremory, was the so-called princess of Ruin and the heiress of the Gremory lineage, renowned throughout the underworld for her beauty, said to rival that of even Archangel Gabriel or the demon king Leviathan. A high-ranking devil and the last successor of the noble Gremory family, one of the mightiest of the remaining 72 pillars, Rias had crossed paths with Naruto during a fierce clash with a deadly foe. Naruto had intervened and saved her from certain death. That encounter led to friendship, which slowly grew into love, eventually culminating in marriage. Yes, Naruto-kun. I'm ready, she replied, summoning her clan's signature ability. A sphere of destructive power, black with glowing red veins, formed in her hand. This energy, pure destruction, erased anything it touched down to the molecular level. Not even dust remained where it struck. Without hesitation, Rias hurled the orb at the stone barrier. The sphere and the rock clashed, seemingly locked in a silent battle of power. Naruto stood still, unconcerned. He understood the strength of the ward guarding the cave, but he also knew that no barrier could withstand the pure obliteration force of Rias' power for long. Moments later, the rock and its protective seal crumbled into nothingness, as though they'd never existed. Hand in hand, Naruto and Rias walked forward into the darkness of the cave. At its heart, they found a still body lying lifeless on the ground. Gaara. Naruto knelt beside what was once his closest companion. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner, Gaara. But rest easy. I swear the ones responsible will pay, he said, slowly rising to face the group before him. Akatsuki. Pain stepped forward, locking eyes with Naruto. So it's really you. I didn't think you'd survived. Tell me, Kyuubi, how are you still alive? He asked coldly, scrutinizing both Naruto and the woman beside him. I'm not the Kyuubi, Naruto answered flatly. The beast is gone, vanished. Forever erased. Pain's expression tightened, his eyes narrowing, their glow intensified. What do you mean, gone? He asked sharply. Naruto looked around at each Akatsuki member before speaking again. First off, don't presume to order me around. Second, if you want answers, ask Uchiha and Hatake. They're the ones who attacked me and accidentally flung me into a realm with no chakra. My body, forced to adapt, replaced its chakra with the energy of that world. With no chakra to replenish it, the Kyuubi faded out. Until he was nothing, he said, watching their stunned reactions. Whatever you planned with the tailed beasts ends here thanks to the leaf's betrayal. Rias leaned in to whisper. Naruto-kun, multiple signatures are closing in fast. We don't have long. Naruto nodded, glancing at her, then at their enemies. You heard the lady, time's short. But before we go, I'm taking out you two for what you did to Gaara. And then the rest of you if you try to stop me. A glowing magic circle materialized in Naruto's hand, and from it emerged a simple, wooden staff, worn, weathered, and seemingly fragile. Deidara scoffed, letting out a loud laugh. A stick, you plan to poke us to death with a twig, Blondie? Ha ha ha. Pain ignored the laughter and continued watching Naruto closely. There were no hand signs, no chakra buildup, yet power was radiating from him. He turned to his comrades. Deidara, Sasori, subdue him before reinforcements from Konoha arrive. Take him to our next location to extract the 9 tails. Sure thing, Leader Sama, Deidara said, hopping down from the statue. He looked over at Rias with a grin. That girl's pretty fine. Maybe I'll keep her after I'm done with you, Kyuubi boy. Naruto's smile vanished. He hated when people threatened his loved ones. The last man who tried to claim his wife died screaming for mercy, and Naruto was happy to grant him none. From that day on, the world learned never to cross Naruto Uzumaki's family. In a flash, a powerful lightning strike burst from Naruto's palm, slamming into Deidara's chest and launching him into the cave wall. Pain froze mid-hand sign, stunned. The energy was foreign, neither chakra nor anything familiar. He lowered his hands, eyes fixed on the blonde. Change of plans, Pain said. We're observing. Looks like the 9 tails learned a few new tricks. Everyone nodded, turning their attention to Naruto. Naruto approached the downed Deidara, his expression now a dangerous scowl. You're gonna regret what you said, he muttered before charging in. Naruto landed a punch to Deidara's gut, making him keel over, and then grabbed his head, slamming his knee into the man's face repeatedly, smashing nose and mouth. Blood streamed down Deidara's battered face as Naruto yanked him up by the hair, locking eyes with him. Say that again about my wife, he growled, dragging him across the cave. With a running start, Naruto hurled Deidara's head into a nearby wall, imprinting his face in the stone. Over and over, Naruto smashed Deidara's skull into the wall. Say it again. Say it, say it. Say it, he shouted, slamming the man's bloodied face into the wall each time, rage boiling with every strike. A mechanical tail lunged at the blonde, aiming to end his life. But before it could reach its mark, it was struck by a sphere of pure destruction conjured by Rias. Sasori's eyes widened as the tail started to crumble, its structure eroding where the strange crimson orb made contact. The decay spread toward him slowly, and with no other choice, he severed the tail to avoid sharing its fate. His gaze shifted to the girl who launched the attack. She stared back, brow furrowed. I won't let you touch Naruto, she declared, flinging more spheres formed from her destructive power. Sasori dodged a few, but one clipped his arm, causing it to dissolve instantly. Another hit his opposite arm. Noticing 2 more fast approaching, he knew that a direct hit to his torso would mean death. Desperation took over, and he did the only thing that could save his life in that moment. Rias watched as a figure emerged from within the puppet's remains before it could completely vanish. Finally stepping out to fight properly. Took you long enough, she said, observing the man. She had to admit he was somewhat good-looking, but nowhere near the level of her husband. His youthful appearance made him look no older than 15. Elsewhere, Naruto was slamming Deidara's head into the rock wall repeatedly. After several hits, he grew bored and flung the Akatsuki member into the center of the chamber for all to see. Get up and fight me like a man, Naruto demanded. Deidara, disoriented from the onslaught, staggered to his feet. Blood dripped down his face, and though he tried to wipe it away, the swelling made it difficult to keep his eyes open. He glared at Naruto with all the rage he could muster. Naruto smirked. That's the look. That's what I like to see. Prove your worth. Show me what you've got as a proud member of Akatsuki. Hit me with your strongest technique. Naruto spread his arms wide, an open challenge. Onlookers began to question his sanity. Allowing an enemy to attack freely was nearly suicidal. Don't hold back. Come on. Enraged by Naruto's taunts, Deidara hurled one of his most powerful explosives directly at him. Boo! The detonation blanketed the room in dust and debris. From his vantage point, Pain narrowed his eyes, watching Naruto carefully. His vision pierced the thick smoke with ease, while the others waited for the air to clear. Ha 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 ha. That's what happens when you mock me, you damn blonde. Deidara barked, turning to assist his comrade in battling the redhead. Is that seriously your best? Naruto's voice echoed from within the clearing dust. As it settled, the figure of Naruto stood unscathed, the only damage being his shredded clothing. Every Akatsuki member, excluding Pain, was stunned. No one had ever endured one of Deidara's high-grade bombs without suffering horrific injuries. That's not possible. That should have ended him, muttered the white side of Zetsu, his tone softer and more youthful than his darker counterpart. Zetsu-san's right. I've seen the destruction Deidara's bombs can unleash firsthand. Naruto-kun surviving that unscathed, it's unthinkable. Something must have changed during his 3-year absence, added the only one in the room with the Sharingan. While they debated, Pain remained silent, observing. How are you still standing? That blast should have obliterated you, Deidara stammered, instinctively stepping back. He hated to admit it, but fear crept into him. The blonde had taken a direct hit from one of his most lethal creations, a C2-level bomb, and walked away with only torn clothes. His body trembled slightly as Naruto grinned mockingly. You thought that pathetic trick could kill me, Naruto sneered. Let me show you what real power looks like. Slamming his staff into the ground, a bolt of lightning surged from the heavens, crashing through the cave roof and enveloping him in blinding light. The intensity forced everyone to shield their eyes. Even the projections of Akatsuki members not physically present turned away to avoid blindness. When the light faded, all eyes snapped to Naruto, now transformed. He now wears attire resembling Thor's from the Wakanda battle. His eyes shone with white lightning coursing through them. His staff was gone, replaced by a double-edged weapon, an axe with one side shaped like a hammer, glowing with arcane script etched along its wooden handle. Thunder rumbled through the broken ceiling, the storm clouds above flashing with constant strikes of lightning. Deidara could feel the static thick in the air, his skin tingling, a sign of the immense energy surrounding Naruto. It terrified him. For the first time, he felt utterly powerless. Naruto's presence made their leader's power seem weak in comparison. Every instinct screamed at him to flee. He reached into his pouch and muttered, "C2," releasing a clay owl toward Naruto. The blonde pointed his weapon at the creature. A searing beam shot out and vaporized it instantly. Staggering back, Deidara regrouped beside Sasori. "Sasori-senpai, I think we need to combine our strength. If we want to survive this, especially against the blonde, we go all in." Sasori nodded and shed his cloak, revealing his puppet body beneath. Agreed, they're both too dangerous to hold back against. Naruto turned to Ria's and gently brushed his hand across her cheek. Are you all right, love? She gazed into his glowing eyes, reading the worry hidden within. To others, they were blank, radiant orbs, but she could always see the truth. She alone could decipher every emotion flickering behind them. Not even his father could do that when Naruto was in this form. His touch calmed her, it always had, no matter the situation. I'm fine, sweetheart. Someone like him doesn't stand a chance against me, not after what we've been through. And you know I'm no damsel needing rescue. Naruto smiled faintly at her response. He'd always admired strong women, those who stood tall on their own. I don't doubt your strength, my love. I just hate seeing anyone try to hurt you. Ria's grinned. She liked his possessive side. After Naruto killed the man who once tried to marry her, he made it clear, no one else could touch her. Is my husband jealous that some worthless man dared to want me? She teased, placing a hand on his cheek and drawing him in for a kiss. You don't need to be jealous. You'll always be the only man for me. But we should finish this fast. Remember the people I mentioned? Naruto nodded. They'll be here any minute. We need to wrap this up. Naruto turned toward the rogue duo, lifting a brow as he examined Sasori's true form. Well, that's a first, a puppet using another puppet. That's rich in irony. But as my wife said, we need to finish this quickly. No offense, but I hate wasting time in this backward hole. His final words confused everyone, except Ria's, who understood exactly what he meant. Pain observed the transformation of the blonde with sharp focus, the overwhelming energy radiating from him almost tangible. He stayed quiet, evaluating every detail, trying to identify any flaw or potential strategy to take the blonde down. Pain already knew that Sasori and Deidara stood little chance against the pair. That meant the responsibility would likely fall to him. Although he was confident that with the Rinnegan he could overpower the blonde, it never hurt to have a fallback. Discovering a weakness would make things far easier. His thoughts were interrupted by a voice. He turned his head to see it was Hidden. Hidden was in disbelief over the chaos unfolding. First, some idiot who was supposed to be dead turned up alive. Second, one of his own allies had revealed himself to be some kind of sentient puppet. And now, the blonde kid who had survived a massive explosion had undergone some kind of transformation that altered his body and aura. What the hell is going on? One minute he's the Ninetales, and the next he's some kind of thunder god, Hidden muttered, staring at the blonde in shock. Kakuzu gave a rare nod of agreement. He's right. In all my years as a shinobi, I've never seen anything like this. It's as if the Ninetales Jinchuriki evolved into something else, something more dangerous. That's all you two have to say. Did either of you know Sasori was actually a puppet? Asked the large man with the sword strapped to his back. He glanced at the blonde, now looking far different from the brat he and his partner had nearly captured 3 years ago. They would have succeeded if not for Jirya's meddling. The red-eyed man turned to his blue-haired comrade. Probably happened when he teamed up with Orochimaru. That snake is twisted enough to make something like that. Orochimaru was useful, but I never fully trusted him, the only female among them said coolly. He contributed to our cause, but betrayal always comes with consequences. We won't spare him if he turns on us. Back on the battlefield, Sasori unleashed his full arsenal of puppets, including the fearsome third Kazekage, while Deidara soared upward on a newly crafted clay bird. He coated some of Sasori's puppets in explosive clay to amplify the damage when they neared Naruto or Ria's. The blonde would pay for hurting her. Naruto flew above the 2 Akatsuki members, astonishing them. Only 2 shinobi in history, both from Iwagakure and both former Kage, had ever demonstrated the ability to fly. And now, this blonde boy joined their ranks. Even more shocking, black, bat-like wings emerged from Ria's back, allowing her to rise into the air and take her place beside her transformed partner. From her palms, the crimson-haired girl conjured twin orbs of destructive energy and hurled them at their enemies. Sasori commanded a barricade of puppets to shield himself, even deploying his prized Kazekage puppet to form a wall of iron sand. But it was futile. Her devastating attack tore through the defenses as if they were paper. Naruto seized the moment his wife created, hurling his axe and smashing through the puppets in his way. He followed by charging his hands with lightning and launching it forward, taking out 2 clay birds and more puppets that rushed him. The axe, moving with unnatural precision, boomeranged back to his grasp. Raising it skyward, the blonde smirked. Inside the cavern, the atmosphere changed. Thunder boomed. Lightning cracked through the stone ceiling. Both Sasori and Deidara had to constantly shift positions to avoid getting struck. The only ones unaffected were the Akatsuki observers on the statue, and Naruto and Ria's. With a wild grin, Naruto absorbed a massive lightning bolt into his axe, then unleashed it in a wave that incinerated everything in its path, including a far-off wall behind his enemies. The impact separated Deidara and Sasori. Deidara, landing roughly on the shattered ground, had to dodge multiple energy spheres and bolts raining from above. Crafting pigeons from clay, he sent them at Naruto, but even their detonation barely fazed him. Deidara took to the skies again, luring Naruto upward. As the blonde closed the distance, Deidara detonated his clay bird. The blast flung Naruto into the dirt, where he quickly recovered, dodging a sword-wielding puppet lunging at his head. Before he could retaliate, a crimson energy arrow pierced the puppet, reducing it to fragments. Naruto smiled. Ria's had now manifested a bow of her own. Teaching her to mold her power into weapons had clearly paid off. Focusing back on the battle, Naruto shot through the air toward Deidara, who was riding another clay bird. With blinding speed, the blonde appeared behind him and struck his neck, slamming him into the ground. As Deidara tried to recover, a searing bolt pierced his chest, obliterating his heart. Naruto hovered over the corpse, conjured another blast, and fired, leaving Deidara's body scorched beyond recognition. Naruto quickly dispatched another puppet that tried to ambush him, cutting it clean in half. Grabbing yet another by the arm, he shattered it with a punch. Then, spinning rapidly, He conjured a vortex of electricity that swept away scores of puppets near the entrance. When he stopped, the devastation was clear. Only Sasori, the third Kazekage puppet, and a handful of others remained. The rest lay in ruin. With Deidara dead and the puppets mostly destroyed, Naruto turned to see Rias holding her own. Confident in her strength, he shifted his attention to the other Akatsuki. The spiky-haired man was still watching him closely. Floating down to a protruding rock, Naruto perched on it like a king, observing the scene. Sensing a spike of power from Rias, Naruto grinned, proud of her. He loved watching her in action, the way she overwhelmed enemies with ruthless grace. Her growth as a warrior and noble had been remarkable under his guidance. He looked back to the man with the Rinnegan, who remained silent and analytical. Naruto smirked, locking eyes with him. "So, you're the one in charge." From atop the Jito statue, Pain nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Correct. I am Pain, leader of the Akatsuki." Naruto's smirk deepened. "Pain, huh? Fitting name. You know, in another tongue, it literally means suffering. Kind of poetic, seeing as your group extracts tailed beasts in the most excruciating ways. So tell me, what's your endgame after you've gathered them all?" As he asked, he casually sidestepped another iron sand spear launched by the Kazekage puppet, never breaking eye contact with Pain. "Our objective is peace," Pain replied. "Once we obtain all the tailed beasts, we will forge a weapon of mass destruction. Through widespread suffering, the world will be forced into harmony. Only when humanity experiences true pain will they set aside war and learn to coexist." Naruto nodded slowly. "Sounds noble in a twisted way. But have you considered this? What if, instead of uniting in fear, the villages all band together against you? There are 5 great nations, and your numbers are already down. Deidara's dead. Sasori's next. You're facing extinction because you murdered my friend Gaara." To punctuate his words, Naruto released a powerful blast from his palm. It slammed into the Kazekage puppet, sending it crashing down. It wasn't strong enough to destroy it completely, but it was enough to put Sasori on the defensive again. Pain narrowed his gaze at the blonde standing before him. Naruto had pointed out something that had been brushed off entirely, the possibility that all nations might unite against them. Even with their power, they wouldn't survive if the 5 great villages banded together for a massive coordinated assault. "You make a fair point," Pain said, "but it's highly unlikely. Right now, the major villages are deeply divided. Mist is entrenched in civil conflict. The Leaf still holds a grudge against the Sand for the attack 3 years ago. Stone loathes the Leaf for what the 4th Hokage did during the last war, and Cloud doesn't trust any of the others. So an alliance among them, nearly impossible." Naruto's smile didn't waver. "But wasn't it you who said pain brings people together? How can you be sure they haven't already formed an alliance against you?" asked the blonde with pale eyes. "True, suffering creates bonds," Pain replied. "But hatred drives people apart. It's far more likely they'll continue targeting one another rather than joining forces against us. In fact, some might even try to cooperate with us to save themselves from total destruction." Their exchange halted as they watched Rias land a blow on the Sandame Kazekige's puppet, sending it hurtling toward the statue. Pain raised his hand and stopped the puppet midair. Then, with a simple command, "Shinra Tensei," the puppet flew back at blinding speed and smashed into a wall, shattering into pieces. Pain paid no attention to Sasori's glare. He knew that no matter how skilled Sasori was, or what puppet he used, he wouldn't survive this confrontation. Naruto clapped lightly, impressed. "That's some skill, especially while operating through a projection, Pain-san." Pain nodded at the still-smiling Naruto. "I am a god. Feats like this are nothing to me," he said with calm confidence, his tone laced with superiority, something Naruto didn't miss. Naruto studied him. Despite his arrogance, Pain might actually have the power to back it up. Few could manipulate their abilities through a mere projection. Perhaps he would even offer Naruto a real fight someday. Until then, conversation and maybe extracting some intel would suffice. "Funny," Naruto said, voice turning serious. "I'm technically a god as well, or a demigod depending on how you look at it. I have a question though, if you don't mind, Pain-san." Pain gave a silent nod. "How do you plan to accomplish your goal with a traitor feeding information to your enemies?" Naruto asked, locking eyes with him, then glancing toward Uchiha. Pain's expression darkened instantly. Around them, the others stopped watching the ongoing clash between the redheads and turned their attention to Naruto's claim. "What are you implying?" "Akatsuki has no traitor," Pain said, voice hard. If that's true, then how do you explain the intel Konoha has on your movements? How did they know about the Kazekage abduction when the entire sand village was on full lockdown? Naruto asked. Pain's eyes narrowed further, and he glanced toward one of the projections. The others followed his gaze to the Uchiha, eyes closed, and notably the only member from Konoha. Itachi Uchiha is your sole operative with Leaf connections, Naruto continued. Did you really believe that tale about him killing his clan to test his strength? He did it on orders, on a mission given by Hiruzen Sarutobi himself. His real task was to wipe out his clan, infiltrate your group, and relay everything back to Konoha. Itachi's eyes widened slightly at the revelation. He wasn't sure how Naruto had found out. Only he, the Hokage, and a few top advisors knew of the mission. Before anyone could question him, Itachi severed the projection link, vanishing from sight. Pain turned to Kasame. Kasame, locate Itachi and bring him back. I want him alive. We need to know what exactly he's told Konoha, he ordered. Kasame nodded and disappeared to carry out the command. Meanwhile, as Naruto and Pain talked, Rias grappled with Sasori's poison tail. Using raw strength, she slammed him repeatedly into the cave floor before yanking him close and landing a crushing blow to his chest, destroying the puppet master completely. Naruto stood and brushed off the dirt. Now that Sasori's dealt with, I suppose we're finished here. Like I said earlier, Pain-san, we only came after Sasori and Deidara for what they did to Gaara. The Nine Tails is no longer inside me, so you have no reason to pursue me. But if you do, I won't hesitate to wipe all of you out, he said calmly. His eyes briefly flashed with power. That little display you saw, that's just the tip of the iceberg, actually. Why don't we make a deal? The Akatsuki members stayed silent, watching the exchange between these two so-called gods. After seeing what each could do, perhaps the term wasn't an exaggeration. A deal, you say? What kind of arrangement are you proposing? Pain asked, eyes narrowed. A simple one, really. When your weapon of destruction is ready and you begin spreading fear, there are a few nations I want untouched. In return, I'll eliminate Orochimaru and the rogue Uchiha for you. I'll also provide you with a seal that can extract tailed beasts without killing their hosts. I'm no longer a Jinchuriki, but I won't let others die for something beyond their control, something forced on them by selfish men. Not if I can help it, Naruto said. Then he approached Gaara's body, oddly untouched despite the chaos. Pulling out a small chess piece resembling a devil's revival tool, though engraved with an axe like his own symbol, Naruto glanced at Rias. Are you sure this will work? He asked. Rias crossed her arms beneath her chest. Ajuka-sama confirmed it. Since you're not a devil but a god, he created a modified version of the evil pieces using your divine energy. These can resurrect someone as a demigod like you. It's not the full set a high-class devil would have, but it's enough to bring back a few people. Naruto held the unique piece. He had one of each type. Queen, knight, rook, bishop, and pawn. 5 pieces, 5 chances. This isn't the first time I've used one, he noted. No, but the previous person used magic, Rias reminded him. Gaara uses chakra. It's uncertain how the process will react. You're right, Naruto admitted. But Ajuka wouldn't say it would work unless he was sure, and I've known him long enough to trust his creations. Naruto gave a silent nod, acknowledging that Rias spoke the truth. He inhaled deeply, knelt down, and gently placed the piece onto Gaara's chest, murmuring the chant he had been taught to initiate the ritual. In the name of Naruto Uzumaki, Storm Sovereign and Heir of Thor, origin of all, I summon forth the spirit of this soul, Sabaku no Gaara, commanding it to return and rise reborn, a new being, a divine force, the deity of sand. As he spoke, a glowing sigil formed beneath Gaara's still body. The piece on Gaara's chest began to sink slowly. Naruto raised his axe to the heavens, drawing down a bolt of lightning into it. With the weapon fully charged, he brought it crashing down onto the embedded piece, forcing it deep within Gaara's form. Gaara's eyes flew open, and he gasped for air as he sat upright abruptly. Naruto immediately supported him, helping him sit upright with care. Easy now, Gaara, breathe. Just take slow, steady breaths, Naruto said soothingly, placing his palm on Gaara's chest to calm him. Slowly, Gaara's breathing evened out, though his gaze was fogged with confusion. That's it, you're safe. Just keep breathing. Gaara stared at the figures surrounding him, and his eyes widened in disbelief as he recognized one face in particular. Naruto, is that really you? He asked, his voice full of shock. He had no doubt that Naruto had died. Naruto gave a small nod and smiled. Yeah, Gaara, it's me. But that can't be, you were dead, or maybe I'm the one who's passed on. No, neither of us are dead. But for now, just rest. I'll explain everything soon, Naruto replied. Gaara nodded slowly, still disoriented, while Naruto stood and turned to face Pain, locking eyes with him. So, now that you've seen a mere glimpse of what I can do, what say you, Pain-san? Do we have an agreement? Pain took a moment to consider the proposal, reflecting on Naruto's actions since his arrival. The sheer might Naruto displayed was undeniable, otherworldly even. From his unusual powers, to the woman he claimed as his wife, to the miraculous revival of the former One-Tail's host, an act no one without the Rinnegan should be capable of. He even knew about Itachi's secret allegiance. With all of that in mind, Pain decided it was wiser to have the blonde as an ally than risk having him as an enemy, at least until a weakness could be found. Very well. I accept your terms. But betray me and I'll end your life myself, he warned, releasing a pulse of his chakra for emphasis. Naruto met the warning with an amused smile, unfazed. Right back at you, he replied, producing a stack of paper tags. These seals will allow you to extract the tailed beasts from their hosts without killing them. Place one on the target and another at the destination. To activate, infuse a bit of your chakra into both before initiating the process. He dropped the tags onto the floor and turned his back on the group. Just as he began walking away, Pain halted him. Wait. There's still one matter left to discuss before you leave. Naruto turned, expression calm. And what's that, Pain-san? The 9 tails inside you. We still need to extract and seal it. As I've said before, the Kyubai's presence vanished from me completely, along with all of my chakra. But if you need proof, Naruto formed a few familiar hand signs. Shadow clone technique, he shouted, but nothing happened. See, no chakra. Pain's Rinnegan scanned Naruto thoroughly. He saw nothing, no chakra network at all. The blonde was telling the truth. That's a problem. Without the Kyubai's power, our plans can't proceed. Naruto raised a hand calmly. I wouldn't be so sure, he said, drawing the attention of everyone in the room. To show you my sincerity, I'll tell you where you can find remnants of the Kyubai's chakra. Not as much as I had, but enough to be useful. Pain's interest peaked. Kyuubai chakra. Where? At the Temple of Fire, there's a boy named Sora. His father sealed a portion of the fox's chakra inside him when he was young. Another fragment lies within the corpses of the Gold and Silver brothers, Jinkaku and Kinkaku, who were swallowed and regurgitated by the fox during battle. And the largest portion lies in Konoha, in the grave of the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Beside his resting place, you'll find a scroll containing chakra once belonging to Mito Uzumaki-sama. The room fell silent as the revelation sank in. Pain narrowed his gaze. How do you know all this? Let's just say I have access to very reliable sources, Naruto answered cryptically. As he turned away once more, he paused and looked back. Oh, and one last thing. The tomb of the Gold and Silver brothers is about 200 meters south of Kumigakure's gates, right where their ninja academy is. You'll need to destroy the site to retrieve their bodies, and to extract the chakra, use your Rinnegan along with these. He dropped another set of seals to the ground. Don't ask how I know what your eyes are capable of. With that, he turned again and began walking toward his waiting companions. Until next time, Pain-san and you too, Konan, Zetsu, Hiden, Kakuzu, and Tobai. The group was stunned, especially Pain, when they heard Naruto speak the last name. Only he, Konan, and Zetsu knew the truth of Tobai's identity. This made it clear. Naruto was dangerous, and whether he was an ally or not, Pain would start preparing for the day they might need to eliminate him. Once the meeting concluded, the holograms vanished, and Pain released the Jido statue's summoning technique before disappearing. He'd soon dispatch Zetsu to retrieve the seals Naruto had left. Naruto turned to Gaara and helped him rise. Come on, we need to get moving, he said, draping Gaara's arm over his shoulder to support him. Riaz did the same on his other side. Gaara looked at her in confusion, prompting Naruto to smile. Gaara, this is Riaz Uzumaki, my wife. Riaz-chan, meet Gaara, my only true friend in this world. Riaz offered a gentle smile. It's truly a pleasure to finally meet you, Gaara-san. Naruto-kun's told me so much about you. The honor is mine, Uzumaki-san, Gaara said, his voice faint and weak. Please, just Riaz. Any friend of Naruto-kun is a friend of mine. All right then, Riaz-san, he said with a hesitant nod. Naruto chuckled. Don't bother, Rias-chan. Took me ages to get him to call me by name. Let him go at his own pace, he said as the group made their way out of the ruined cavern. As they walked, Gura glanced at Naruto's glowing eyes. What's with your eyes, Naruto? Why are they like that? Oh, this. It's a side effect of becoming the storm deity, Naruto said casually, as his eyes flickered back to normal, then to their godly state once again. You're a god now, the god of storms. And how are you even alive? And what's going on with the Akatsuki deal? I know you have 1,000 questions, Gura. I promise I'll explain everything once we reach Suna. For now, just rest. It's a long journey ahead. Gaara nodded, holding back his curiosity. Just then Rias frowned slightly. Naruto-kun, we're not alone. I noticed, Naruto said, looking ahead as 9 figures landed before them. Well, well, look who finally decided to show up. The mighty heroes of Konohagakure, he said mockingly. Everyone stared in shock as they recognized the figure before them. Kakashi stepped forward, voice trembling. It can't be. I saw you die. You wanted to boast about killing me, Headache, but sadly for you, I'm very much alive and far more powerful than ever. What are you saying? That you died when the Ninetales took control of your body and went berserk on Sasuke and Headache Kakashi. That's the version spread to every ally of the Hidden Leaf, Gaara replied, his gaze locked onto the only person he had ever truly called a friend. That's the cover story I let them believe. The truth, Gaara, is that after I defeated Sasuke at the Valley of the End, I was betrayed, stabbed in the back by Kakashi's blade. He and Sasuke both tried to erase me. They thought I'd vanish completely, Naruto said coldly as his eyes turned an eerie, glowing white. But I survived, and I've never craved vengeance more. The shinobi of the Hidden Leaf were stunned as arcs of pure lightning burst from Naruto's body, and his glowing axe hummed with energy. Sakura narrowed her eyes in disgust, scowling at her former comrade. My mother was right about you all along, Naruto. You're nothing but a cursed monster who never should have existed, the pink-haired Kunoichi spat. Naruto smirked, his eyes drifting to the woman with a look of cruel amusement. Even the modest figure of his wife put Sakura's flat chest to shame. Monster? No, Sakura. I'm no demon, I'm a god. Ria's expression darkened at the sound of Sakura's name. Naruto had told her about the girl who once scorned him, humiliated him, and beat him down without remorse. Rias had long vowed to make Sakura suffer slowly should they ever meet face to face. A god? Don't make me laugh, loser, Sasuke sneered arrogantly. You're a nobody, clanless trash who should have died 3 years ago. Sasuke, always so obsessed with your own legend, Naruto sighed. Don't worry, after I erase your brother, I'll get to you next. Enraged, Sasuke activated his Sharingan, channeling a Chidori in his hand as he charged Naruto with murderous intent. Naruto calmly released Gaara's arm and, to everyone's horror, caught the Chidori with his bare hand. Sasuke's eyes widened in disbelief. You dare use lightning against the god of thunder? Naruto mocked, crushing Sasuke's hand until the Chidori vanished. Sasuke collapsed to his knees, screaming in agony before Naruto casually slammed the side of his axe into Sasuke's chest, sending him crashing into the cliff wall. Sasuke-kun! Sakura screamed, dashing to his side. Before she could reach him, Naruto appeared in front of her and grabbed her throat. Silence, wench. Your shrieking disgusts me, he growled before slamming her into the shallow river. Guy launched a kick at Naruto, but the blonde dodged, grabbing Rock Lee's leg midair instead. I remember your dream, Lee, to become the world's greatest taijutsu master, Naruto said, lifting his axe. Lee panicked, struggling to escape, but Naruto brought the axe down, severing Lee's leg clean at the knee. The cauterizing lightning left no blood, only a charred stump. Lee howled in agony as he fell into the water. Lee, Guy cried, rushing to his fallen student. Naruto laughed cruelly at Lee's pain, still holding the severed leg. Guy, enraged, charged at him with burning fury. Catching the thrown leg mid-run, he looked up just in time to see Naruto drop from the sky, axe raised high. A moment later, Guy's head exploded under the impact, his body turning to ash from a concentrated blast of lightning. Ninpo, beast scroll. From the right, 2 ink lions lunged at Naruto, but he waited calmly, then snapped his fingers. A bolt of lightning reduced the creatures to dust. Lightning style. Beast tracker. Kakashi released a massive electric hound at Naruto, but it fizzled out upon contact. Shocked, Kakashi launched another technique, lightning style, white thunder. A blazing white bolt aimed straight for Naruto's heart. Naruto merely shook his head. You leaf fools still don't understand real power. Let me enlighten you. With that, he sprinted forward, then leapt into the air. The sky darkened, thunder roared, and his axe radiated with divine energy. Descending like a meteor, Naruto slammed the axe to the ground, obliterating everything in a wide radius. The Akatsuki cave collapsed. Water from the stream vanished. Lightning struck Kakashi, pinning him beneath rubble, alive but broken. Naruto stood among the devastation, his grin widening. What had once been a peaceful clearing with waterfalls and crystal water was now rubble and scorched earth. Only Guy was dead, completely erased. Naruto's hatred for the leaf, especially after Kakashi's betrayal, burned hotter than ever. Only Gaara and a few others had his tolerance. A dark-haired boy charged him, Sai, the creator of the ink beasts. Naruto met him blade to blade, easily overpowering him. And who might you be? My substitute, Naruto mocked. Hi, I'm Sai. But unlike you and Sasuke, I actually have a dick, he replied with a fake grin, straining against Naruto's strength. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Is that so? Last I checked, mine was just fine. Maybe you'd like to ask my wife about it. Then she must be blind and desperate to marry someone as pathetic as you. Naruto's eyes darkened. You know, I wasn't going to kill you, but insulting my wife. That's unforgivable. In a flash, Naruto plunged his hand through Sai's chest. Holding the beating heart, he crushed it in front of the dying boy before reducing his body to ash with a surge of lightning. Who's next? He asked coldly. No one answered. They all just stared, wide-eyed and terrified. Realizing no one dared challenge him, the blonde made up his mind to bring it all to an end. After one final glance at the devastation he'd caused, he gave a firm nod before turning his eyes to Kakashi, who had just emerged from the debris he was buried under. Though slightly roughed up and his clothes torn in places, the man looked mostly unharmed. I have to leave now, Kakashi. But before I go, I want you to deliver a message to your leader, he said, causing Kakashi to meet his gaze. Tell that ancient hag that the storm deity is coming to Konoha, to unleash ruin, disorder, and death across the village. I'll finish what the Ninetales once started. With that declaration, Naruto took off into the sky with his wife, heading straight for Sunagakure. Chiyo, Neji, and Tenten remained rooted in place, overwhelmed by the sheer level of destruction Naruto had wrought. They were still struggling to comprehend how he had done all of it. None of them had the nerve to challenge the fearsome blonde who proclaimed himself a god. But after witnessing his overwhelming power, they were beginning to believe he might truly be one. Descending gracefully, Naruto, Rias, and Gaara touched down around 200 meters from Sunagakure's main gate and chose to walk the remaining distance. They had 3 reasons for doing so. First, Gaara had regained enough strength to move unaided. Second, Naruto and his wife preferred not to alarm the villagers by flying in, which could be mistaken as a hostile move. Despite Gaara being an ally, Naruto wouldn't allow anyone to harm his wife. He'd annihilate the entire village, Gaara included, if it came to that. The third and most personal reason was Naruto's disdain for the people of this world. They were narrow-minded, quick to label anything they didn't understand as evil. That kind of ignorance was far more rampant in this dimension than in his current home, where people were more open-minded, intelligent, and slow to judge without understanding. Once they arrived in the blazing sands of Sunagakure, Naruto opted to suppress most of his power, returning to a sealed state, the form he wanted to appear in before Gaara's siblings, to avoid unnecessary tension. Rias followed his lead, concealing her own aura. Together, the trio made their way to the village entrance, where they were confronted by Gaara's siblings, backed by a sizable force of heavily armed shinobi, likely called in as backup for the Konoha teams. The group halted at once upon recognizing their leader had returned unharmed. Gaara, Temari said in disbelief. She rushed forward and pulled him into a tight embrace, as if afraid he might disappear again. You're alive, I thank the heavens you're safe, she said, unaware that it was a literal god who had saved him. But how did you survive? We were told the Akatsuki captured you, she asked, failing to notice the subtle twitch in Ria's expression at the mention of the enemy organization. It appeared that name still left a sour taste even across dimensions. I'm fine, Temari, you don't have to worry, Gaara said calmly, glancing at his sister. As for escaping, I didn't. I was rescued. He motioned toward Naruto and Rias. Temari's shock at seeing Gaara alive paled in comparison to the disbelief that filled her eyes when she recognized Naruto. For a second, It looked like the sight had taken her breath away. Letting go of her brother, she sprinted toward Naruto and threw herself into his arms, holding him even tighter than she had Gaara. Tears streamed freely down her cheeks, soaking Naruto's right shoulder. The so-called Thunder God merely smiled gently and returned the hug, stroking her head comfortingly in the same way he did for Ria's when she was upset, or when they were enjoying quiet moments together. Sometimes he'd even do it to his wife's familiar, who was constantly clinging to him due to his powerful presence. After several moments of silent crying, Temari looked up into his blue eyes and finally spoke. Naruto-kun, I thought you were gone when we got back. Kakashi told everyone you died fighting Sasuke. Shhh, it's all right now, Temari-chan, he said softly, glancing down at her. That was a lie, something Kakashi made up. He smiled kindly at her. I'll explain everything soon, but for now, stop crying. A girl as beautiful as you shouldn't shed tears, he said, gently wiping her cheeks. Temari's face turned pink at his compliment. She also felt a strange warmth spread through her when his hand touched her face. Looking to the side, she finally took in the red-haired woman beside Naruto and Gaara. She had to admit, the woman was stunning. Her fair skin, flowing crimson hair, and alluring figure sparked a bit of jealousy. Temari had always wished for a body like that, but her kunoichi training and image of strength left her with no room to indulge such vanity. Still, she couldn't help but compare herself to the striking redhead, whose captivating blue eyes only added to her charm. Naruto noticed the way Temari was eyeing Ria's and chuckled to himself. No matter where they went, Ria's always seemed to draw the gaze of everyone around her, men and women alike. Whether it was the human world, the spirit realm, or now even another dimension, her beauty never went unnoticed. With a soft grin, he addressed the group before him. Temari-chan, Kankuro-san, let me introduce you to Ria's Uzumaki, my wife and the future mother of my children. Temari felt her heart shatter at those words. She took a step back, distancing herself from Naruto and Ria's. Why you're married? She asked, to which Naruto simply nodded. I'm happy for you both. I hope you have a wonderful life together, she said while turning away to hide the new tears forming in her eyes. She had loved Naruto since the Chunin exams. That love only deepened after witnessing his courage against Gaara. And when he pulled her brother from the shadows of loneliness, she had decided, once he returned from his mission with Sasuke, she would confess. But he never came back. When they heard he died, a part of her died too. She'd blamed herself, wondering if she should have gone to him instead of helping Shikamaru. Now, 3 years later, to find him alive only to learn he belonged to someone else. That heartbreak was worse than believing he was dead. She had once believed fate brought him back so they could finally be together, but it seemed that future had never been hers to claim. Unaware of his sister's inner turmoil, Kankuro stepped forward, addressing Naruto and Ria's. I'm relieved Gaara is okay, and that you're alive and well, married even. But what about the Konoha shinobi who came to retrieve Gaara? And the Akatsuki members who took him in the first place? Naruto turned to him with a slight smirk. Let's just say the Konoha teams had a very unfortunate run-in with someone dangerous. Most of them will need to return to Konoha to bury the dead and tend to their wounded. As for the Akatsuki, they won't be bothering anyone ever again. Kankuro's eyes widened at that. He could barely process what he'd heard. Wait, dead and wounded, he repeated, alarm creeping into his voice as he looked at Naruto in disbelief. Naruto gave a slight nod as his gaze met the boy painted with war markings, though many claimed it was Temari's makeup he had applied himself. Do you happen to recall, or have you come across a pale youth bearing some resemblance to Sasuke? I asked, and the puppeteer responded with a nod. Well, the poor lad was pierced right through the chest, and his heart was removed, which caused him to perish instantly. The blonde Uzumaki's voice carried a clear sorrow. Such a talented ninja he was, and she seemed like a kind soul, he added, shaking his head sadly, though in truth he fought to suppress a cruel grin creeping onto his face. Turning his attention to Kankuro, he resumed his tale. Another casualty was Mado Guy, once Konoha's green beast who turned into a black beast after fighting someone as cold and merciless as a fish. He was left darker than the coal in a barbecue grill, but not before his head was cracked open like a watermelon, he said. Among all present, only Ria's noticed the sinister smile on her husband's face, and the forced sadness hiding the grim joy he took in recalling what he had done to the Konoha shinobi. She knew well that if he continued, he would end up laughing and reveal to their friends' brothers that he was the one who exterminated Konoha's vermin. Not that she cared what Gaara and his siblings thought of her or Naruto, but apparently, her husband still trusted them somewhat, so she decided to give him the benefit of the doubt, at least for now. Clearing her throat, she drew everyone's attention. As Naruto-kun was explaining, both the pale boy and Mato-san were slain by their foe, while the one you call Konoha's second beast, Rock Lee, lost his right leg. Meanwhile, the girl named Sakura Haruno, Kakashi Hatake, the ninja who copied, and the last Uchiha of Konoha all suffered minor wounds during their battle with a man also affiliated with Akatsuki, she said, feigning sorrow for the Konoha ninjas. She despised lying to these people, but none before her were truly friends, just acquaintances of her husband, nothing more. Kankuro was alarmed hearing this. He couldn't fathom that Konoha's ninjas, supposedly the strongest from all the villages, could be so badly injured facing Akatsuki. It made him wonder just how powerful the Akatsuki truly were, and how strong Naruto and his wife must be, since Gaara claimed they were what saved him. But putting that aside, he focused on what mattered now. If that's the case, we must hurry to assist them. After all, they are our allies, Kankuro said, concern and readiness in his voice. No, we won't aid Konoha this time. They brought this on themselves, so they can deal with their own troubles, Gaara said firmly. Everyone was shocked at his words. After all Konoha had done for them over the years, even forgiving their betrayal and alliance with Orochimaru to destroy them. But Gaara, they are our allies. They came from Konoha to help us. If not for them, I would be dead now, the puppeteer protested, glancing at his younger brother. Enough, Kankuro. I'm your cage, and whatever I command must be obeyed. Understood, Gaara said sternly, his gaze intimidating as the sand around him started to swirl violently. If you or any other shinobi of this village assist Konoha, it will be considered treason punishable by death. And don't think for a second, Kankuro, that I won't execute you just because we're brothers. If you defy my orders, I will kill you, he warned, using the same tone from before his first fight with Naruto. A tone that sent chills through those present, reminding them the man before them was once a homicidal madman before he changed for the better. Why yes, Keisuke-sama, Kankuro answered submissively, fear evident in his voice. He hated admitting it, but he still feared his younger brother. Years of mental torment and death threats had made him wary. Seeing Kankuro comply, Gaara addressed everyone else. I want all ninjas to reinforce village defenses. No one enters or leaves without my permission, be it from Suna or Konoha, understood, he ordered, receiving a unanimous, "Hi, Keisuke-sama." The group dispersed to carry out his commands. Once alone, Gaara turned to his siblings. Kankuro and Temari will accompany me. Naruto, you have things to discuss with us privately, he said. The siblings nodded and followed Gaara to the Keisuke tower. Upon arrival, Gaara dismissed the Anbu guards, sealing the room with a silence barrier for privacy. Taking his seat, he looked at Naruto, with his brother and sister behind him. Now Naruto, I want you to tell me exactly what happened 3 years ago and where you've been all this time, he demanded seriously. Naruto took a seat facing Gaara, while Riaz chose a more comfortable spot, sitting on his lap. Temari noticed and quickly looked away, a pang in her heart each time she saw how happy Riaz was with Naruto, especially since she wished it were her. Naruto peeked over Riaz's shoulder at the Sand siblings. Before I begin, Gaara, you should know I'm not ordinary. Neither Riaz-chan nor I are normal. She is a demon, and I am a demigod, he said, watching the three exchange looks as if he'd lost his mind. For a moment, no one spoke until Kankuro burst into laughter echoing through the room. Ahahaha, Naruto, you really want us to believe you're a demigod and your wife is a demon? His laughter grew louder as Naruto nodded. Come on, Naruto, don't be ridiculous. You think we'd buy such nonsense? Marriage must be messing with your head, he teased, glancing at the blonde behind the redhead. Naruto met Kankuro's gaze calmly. You should know, Kankuro, I'm telling the truth. Gaara can vouch for me since he witnessed it himself. Or will you deny, Gaara, that none of what you saw was real? That you didn't see my wife's beautiful wings? He challenged, looking to Gaara, who nodded. Turning to his older brother, Gaara affirmed, Naruto speaks the truth, Kankuro. I saw black wings sprout from Ryo-san's back and Naruto flying effortlessly. Thanks to them, I'm alive today. Kankuro stared at Gaara incredulously. You're joking, right? Or do you really expect us to believe Naruto can fly and she has wings? he asked, pointing at the redhead on Naruto's lap. It's all true, Kankuro. I witnessed it, the Kazekage repeated, irritation creeping in. I don't know what happened to you when you were captured by Akatsuki, Gaara, Kankuro started but fell silent as bat-like wings unfurled from the redhead's back. Rias flapped them a couple of times to prove they were real, not an illusion. Even Temari looked both surprised and frightened by the girl's large black wings. Seeing Kankuro and Temari's reactions brought a smile to Naruto's lips. He always loved the wings demons had, but of all he'd seen, his wife's were his favorite. His grin widened at Kankuro's stunned expression. Now you believe me, Kankuro? The blonde asked. The dark-haired boy only nodded, still amazed. Good. Now I'll tell you what really happened 3 years ago and where I've been, but no one interrupts me until I'm done, understood? He demanded, receiving nods. Raising his right hand, he cloaked it in a faint glow and rested it on Ria's back. The red-haired woman shivered slightly as a current coursed through her wings, causing them to vanish. She turned to find the smiling blonde behind her. You're quite the mischievous one, Naruto-kun, she murmured with a sultry grin. Turning fully, she settled atop the blonde's legs, cupping his cheeks and pulling him into a kiss. Their shared kiss was so intense that they lost track of their surroundings. With his arms, the blonde began removing his partner's clothes, but both abruptly paused and snapped back to reality at the sound of someone clearing their throat nearby. Rias frowned as she caught sight of Kankuro's face, flushed bright red, and wearing a sly grin reminiscent of his lone subordinate. Meanwhile, Temari averted her gaze again, clenching her fists tightly. Glancing back at her husband, she spoke. Then we'll finish this later, Naruto-kun, and I'll make sure you pay for that, she said with a flirtatious cough, adjusting her outfit slightly before turning her attention back to Gaara. Apologies, Gaara-san. It's just that Naruto-kun tends to lose himself when he sees my wings, she explained, prompting the redhead from Suna to raise a brow, studying the blonde with a curious expression. Naruto caught Gaara's gaze and shrugged nonchalantly. What can I say? Rias-chan is one of the most stunning women I've ever met, and everything about her fascinates me, including her sensual, exotic black wings, he said, noticing everyone staring at him. Clearing his throat softly, he shifted to a more serious tone, surprising the brothers from the arena who had never seen the blonde speak so earnestly. Anyway, back to the main point, I was about to tell you where I've been these last 3 years. It all began 3 years ago after my battle with Sasuke at the Valley of the End, he started, beginning to recount the events from that time. Flashback. What is now called the Valley of the End was once a vast, crystal-clear river near the edge of the Land of Fire. This place formed after a titanic battle between Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju, an epic clash so fierce it reshaped the entire landscape. Even after many years, this fight is remembered as the greatest in ninja history, where two shinobi, both worshipped as gods for their immense power, faced off in a destructive duel. To honor these two legends, Konoha erected 2 enormous statues, which have withstood countless storms and battles. What was once a beautiful, majestic scene now lies in ruin, rock piles, debris, and destruction cover the area. The waterfall formed after the clash has expanded, causing the water to flow in strange directions, all consequences of the fierce fight between Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. Anyone witnessing the devastation might think it was caused by 2 seasoned jounin or even cage-level shinobi, but it was actually 2 genins, still fresh from the academy, yet wielding incredible power within. What started as a simple fight between rookies quickly escalated into a brutal battle, showcasing their best abilities and strongest jutsus. Sasuke emerged victorious, as Naruto only knew 2 offensive techniques, Rasengan and Shadow Clone Jutsu. His sensei focused mostly on Sasuke, and sometimes Sakura, teaching them advanced jutsus, but left Naruto with only the basics. Even after learning, Naruto would face prodigies like Neji Hyuga, who nearly killed a family member during the preliminary Chunin exams. His training remained limited. Despite this disadvantage, Naruto proved formidable, clearly evident when he managed to defeat Sasuke, the Rookie of the Year. Though Naruto received 2 Chidori strikes to his chest, which would have been fatal for any ordinary person, he survived thanks to the Kyuubi's chakra residing within him. Though Naruto hated the fox spirit inside, he couldn't deny it was both curse and blessing. On one hand, the Kyuubi was the source of his hardships, harsh treatment, hateful looks, and constant isolation. On the other, it was the reason he survived countless battles against the demon brothers from Kirigakure, during the exams when fighting Orochimaru, and even against Neji. Whether he liked it or not, the fox's power was the only thing keeping him alive, as Sasuke demonstrated by piercing his chest twice during their fight, yet Naruto still stood and breathed. In short, the Kyuubi was a double-edged sword, a curse and a blessing alike, for both Naruto and his foes. While Sasuke wielded Orochimaru's cursed seal, Naruto tapped into the Kyuubi's chakra, matching the Uchiha's natural skill and overwhelming him with the fox's strength. After nearly an hour of battle, both chose to end it with a final technique. Naruto summoned his Rasengan, his only offensive jutsu of note, while Sasuke charged his deadly Chidori. The collision of these two jutsus caused massive destruction in the Valley of the End, a somber reminder that these fighters were children under 15. During the clash, Naruto poured all the Kyuubi chakra he could muster into his Rasengan, while Sasuke amplified his Chidori with the Cursed Seal, boosting both jutsus beyond normal limits. When the dust settled, one lay unconscious on the ground while the other stood nearby, but even he soon collapsed, utterly drained from the battle. Naruto felt elated despite his injuries. He had just defeated the Rookie of the Year, the last Uchiha in Konoha, the prodigy born with everything handed to him. He had also prevented Sasuke from turning rogue against their village. Thinking this, Naruto smiled wider. Finally, he would earn the respect and recognition he'd craved since childhood. Despite his wounds, Naruto was making his way back to Konoha with his barely conscious partner Sasuke on his back. His injuries, though nearly healed thanks to the Kyuubi's chakra, still pained him, worsened by the long rain that caused him to stumble and fall repeatedly. He had a long journey ahead before reaching the village. Suddenly, Naruto tripped again, falling face first onto the ground, causing Sasuke to collapse beside him. A shadow loomed overhead, and looking up, Naruto faintly smiled to see his sensei Kakashi standing there. Kakashi-sensei. I did it. I stopped Sasuke from escaping with Orochimaru. The mission was a success, the blonde said eagerly, eyes shining as he sought praise. Ignoring his aching body, he pushed himself up to look more closely at his teacher. Tell me, Kakashi-sensei, do you think Sakura-chan would want to go out with me now? He asked, grinning with his eyes closed. But the more Naruto spoke, the deeper Kakashi's frown grew. Look, Sasuke's waking up, Naruto said, turning toward his teammate who was slowly stirring. Kakashi, Naruto started, but was cut off by a sharp strike to his throat from Kakashi, rendering him speechless. The blonde dropped to his knees, clutching his throat, blood seeping from his lips and staining his orange clothes as he tried to speak, but only managed a gurgle. Slightly crouching, Kakashi grabbed the blonde by his hair, making him cry out softly from the harsh grip. Never in your entire life dare call me sensei again, he spat. You're nothing but a curse for Konoha and the entire world. He slammed a fist hard into Naruto's stomach, causing fresh blood to seep from his lips. Holding Naruto's head firmly with both hands, he slammed it down onto the floor, then lifted it up again so their eyes met. You're probably wondering why I'm doing this, Naruto, Kakashi said coldly. The only reply was a wet cough as blood dripped onto his clothes. Don't stain me with your demon's filth, he growled, then slammed his knee into Naruto's head before forcing it against the floor again. After a moment, Kakashi's anger cooled slightly as he lifted the blonde's head once more. Like I've told you before, no one ever wanted you. Not me, not the third Hokage, nor Tsunade-sama. None of your academy classmates, nor anyone in all of Konoha or the Land of Fire ever loved you. You're just a weapon, a demon meant to be used for defending the village, he declared, punching Naruto again. Tears welled in Naruto's eyes, but they weren't from the blows he'd suffered worse. No, his tears were from the cruel, bitter words spilling from his sensei's mouth. He couldn't believe it. He refused to accept that his entire life was a lie, a vile deception crafted by everyone in Konoha. It's honestly surprising you even managed to beat Sasuke. Looks like I'll have to ramp up his training once we get back to Konoha, Kakashi said as he grabbed Naruto's throat with one hand, his other summoning a crackling Chidori. With a scream, the blonde was pierced in the right shoulder by the electric jutsu. Ignoring the cries, Kakashi pulled his hand back, blood staining his palm and the ground beneath. He released Naruto, letting gravity take him down, but before the boy in orange could hit the floor, Kakashi leapt into the air and spun, delivering a powerful kick that sent Naruto crashing into a nearby wall, embedding him there. Why are you doing this, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto's mind screamed, though no voice emerged from his throat, silenced by the first brutal strike. Even after everything, Naruto refused to believe his sensei was truly hurting him, that his whole existence was a lie, that all his friends were false, liars who had deceived him all this time. Naruto struggled to free himself from the wall, but before his arm could move, another fierce kick hit his right side, forcing his eyes open involuntarily. I should have ended you when you were just a child, Kakashi said grimly. But the third said you'd be a useful weapon for the village. That's the only reason you're still alive. He grabbed Naruto and threw him back to the same spot, where he collapsed at the feet of a newly arrived Uchiha. Want to hear another secret, Naruto? Kakashi asked, looking down at the bloodied blonde. Want to know why the third Hokage kept you alive? Naruto didn't answer, he couldn't. One reason was for Sasuke, Kakashi continued. To awaken the final level of his Sharingan, Sasuke has to kill his closest friend. That's why the third kept you alive, and why you were put on the same team. You're a pathetic orphan clinging to anyone who shows even the slightest bit of kindness or attention, just like a stray dog desperate for a scrap. That's why the third always intervened when mobs of villagers and ninjas beat you on your birthdays. Naruto's eyes widened slightly. Kakashi caught it and smiled cruelly. Don't tell me you actually thought the third cared about you. He laughed harshly. It was Hiruzen-sama who organized those mobs, let them attack you, then saved you, so you'd see him as your protector from the villagers and shinobi who wanted to hurt you. But none of that was true. You're only alive to be the sacrifice that grants Sasuke the Mangekyo Sharingan, a power we'll claim with your death and blood. Naruto looked up to see Sasuke's face, a twisted smile matching his teacher's cruelty. Sasuke raised his leg and slammed it into Naruto's face, breaking his nose. Kakashi approached as Sasuke kept raining kicks down on Naruto's face, a sick grin never leaving his lips. Enough, Sasuke, Kakashi said, placing a hand on his student's shoulder to stop him. As much as I want to see this devil suffer, we need to finish this quickly so you can get your Mangekyo Sharingan. Reluctantly, Sasuke nodded. He grabbed Naruto by the throat, holding him up as he punched him repeatedly in the stomach. The raven-haired boy's lips curled in sadistic satisfaction when he saw the defeat and betrayal in Naruto's eyes. You really thought someone cared about you, didn't you? That anyone wanted to be friends with a monster like you? It was all a setup from the start, Sasuke sneered, landing another blow that made Naruto cough up more blood. You've been worthless your entire life, a nobody without value or purpose, without anyone to care for you. But rejoice, your miserable life will finally serve to give me the next level of the Sharingan. That's why I agreed to befriend you, only by killing your closest friend can I gain this power. He formed a Chidori in his free hand. Squeezing Naruto's neck tightly, Sasuke suspended him in the air. The blonde no longer had the strength or will to fight, especially after hearing the cruel truth. His whole life had been a sham filled with betrayal, lies, and abuse. To realize everything was fake was the cruelest torture of all. He finally understood why Sarutobi had been kind to him, why one of the Sannin had taken him in. But now, hearing his so-called sensei's truth, all Naruto wished for was a quick and painless death. Sasuke savored the moment, staring at Naruto's face one last time before tightening his grip and plunging the Chidori into Naruto's chest once again. But unlike before, no scream escaped the blonde's lips. Sasuke frowned, then released him, letting the body drop to the floor. Moments later, his own eyes burned fiercely. He screamed, clutching his face as crimson blood streamed down, searing with a pain unlike any he'd known. After what felt like hours of unbearable agony, Sasuke's eyes finally calmed. Kakashi smiled and nodded, signaling that the Mangekyo Sharingan had been achieved. He looked down at Naruto, still barely breathing, his skin pale. The sight only fueled his anger. Congratulations, Sasuke, you've unlocked the Mangekyo Sharingan. You're one step closer to avenging your clan by killing your brother. When we return to Konoha, we'll celebrate your new eyes and the fall of the demon, Kakashi said, pride swelling in his voice. Then I'll train you daily until you master your new power. Once finished, not even Itachi will stand a chance. He glanced at Naruto, whose eyes were nearly shut, barely clinging to life. Now to finish off that filthy demon. Kakashi's normal Sharingan shifted into the Mangekyo. With the last of his strength, Naruto felt a dark void open in his chest, swallowing him whole in agonizing pain. He refused to scream. He wouldn't grant either Kakashi or Sasuke the satisfaction. Just as his body was about to vanish entirely, a brilliant bolt of lightning struck from the sky, distorting the hole in his chest. After a tense moment, Kakashi and Sasuke saw that Naruto's body had completely disappeared without a trace. Naruto slowly started to open his eyes as a strong breeze brushed gently across his face. When his clear blue eyes fully opened, he saw a stunning blue sky stretched before him, dotted with fluffy white clouds, and felt the warm sunlight caressing his skin. Could this be heaven? He wondered quietly, as the serene view eased all his pain, making him feel better than he ever had in his life. Suddenly, the beautiful scene began to fade rapidly. The blonde felt his body falling swiftly downward, powerless to stop it. The further he dropped, the more the blue sky and white clouds drifted away. No, a demon like me doesn't belong here. Demons only have one true home, and that's hell, he thought as he closed his eyes again, bracing for a harsh landing on the fiery floor of the underworld, where he was meant to be alongside other demons. Lying on his back with his eyes shut, Naruto couldn't see that as he fell, he was nearing a vast city gleaming with a radiant golden hue, as if made entirely of gold. Beneath the shimmering golden city, two men faced each other. One was an elderly man with long white hair almost touching the ground, slightly bent with age. Opposite him stood a young blonde man, who looked at the elder with a hint of frustration. "Father, we have to do something to end this war between the three factions. It's spiraling out of control. Not only the angels, fallen angels, and demons suffer, but humans and countless other species have been dragged into this chaos caused by the conflict," he said, watching his father who gently stroked his long white beard. The older man, looking even older than his son, sighed deeply for what seemed like the 10th time in just half an hour. "I've told you many times, Thor, this war isn't our concern. No matter what happens, we cannot intervene to stop it," he said, gazing at the breathtaking scenery around them. "If you or any other Asgardians got involved, it would only make things worse." "But father," Thor was cut off by a sudden noise behind him as something crashed into the ground, leaving a massive crater. Turning quickly, he ran toward the impact and found a boy, a blonde child, badly injured and no older than 13. Jumping into the hole, he approached the boy and gently placed his hand on his neck to check for signs of life. Feeling a faint breath, he looked up at the sky. "Who is this boy? He's neither Asgardian demon nor angel. How did he get here? It's impossible for anyone to arrive unnoticed in Asgard," he thought, narrowing his eyes at the strangely dressed blonde boy who was beginning to stir before slipping back into unconsciousness. "What's happening, Thor? Who is this boy?" the elder asked as he hurried to join his son beside the boy. "I don't know who he is, father. He's not Asgardian, but he's alive for now. Without proper care, he won't last," Thor answered, carefully lifting the boy. As he prepared to leave the hole, a hammer appeared in his hand. Gripping it by a small rope tied to the handle, he spun it a few times before pointing toward the sky. Moments later, he soared upward, carrying the boy with him. 3 days had passed since Thor and his father brought the mysterious blonde child, who fell from the sky, to the city's best healers, including his mother, the most skilled of all. They assured Thor that the boy's wounds had fully healed, no matter how deep or fatal. His mother noted only one lasting mark, a scar shaped like lightning across his chest. She also said the boy had been incredibly lucky to survive, as the chest wound should have been fatal. Luckily, the healing process was swift enough to save him. Thor asked when the boy might awaken, eager to ask questions, but his mother explained that the only lingering injury was mental. The boy's mind had suffered severe trauma, preventing him from waking fully. Observing the boy peacefully asleep, Thor noticed signs of physical, mental, and verbal abuse, as well as malnutrition. The boy's size was too small for his age. Hearing footsteps behind him, Thor turned to see his father, Odin, wearing a curious expression. Odin, king and god of all Nordic gods, known as the Allfather of Asgard, observed the sleeping boy. "How is the child?" he asked, looking to his eldest son. His concern wasn't for the boy himself, but for how he managed to cross the protective barrier surrounding Asgard unnoticed. "Mother says all his wounds are fully healed. She also mentioned his mind holds him back. The boy endured deep mental trauma that still affects him, preventing full consciousness," Thor replied. Odin stroked his long beard thoughtfully, staring at the boy. He had many questions. Where did the boy come from? How did he reach their realm without detection? Odin knew no god or being could enter Asgard unobserved, much less a mere human. His old eyes narrowed as the boy began to move, as if troubled by a nightmare. It seems he's about to wake, Odin said, watching the blonde toss and turn. Naruto's eyes opened slowly but closed quickly against a piercing white light shining in his face. Trying again, he opened them more gradually, allowing his blue eyes to adjust to the brightness. Looking up, he saw the ceiling was entirely golden. Turning his head, he noticed a window revealing a golden landscape outside. Suddenly, his body stiffened as he sensed someone watching him. Glancing sideways, he saw two men he had never met before, one young and handsome, the other older and worn. Their unusual clothing made him wary. "Who are you? Where am I?" he asked, pushing himself up slightly, fearful they might harm him like his sensei Kakashi and teammate Sasuke had. "Easy there, boy, we mean no harm," said Thor, stepping forward but stopping as Naruto recoiled. "Calm down, we only want to talk." "Don't be afraid, I'll open up," Naruto said nervously. Seeing the boy's fear, Thor stepped back. Naruto gradually relaxed. "We're nothing to fear, I'm Thor and this is my father Odin. We found you after you fell from the sky," he explained, which confused Naruto since he remembered nothing of it. "Tell me, young one, what is your name and where do you come from?" Though the man spoke kindly, Naruto remained cautious, unwilling to trust anyone again after his sensei and teammates' betrayals. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I'm from—" He stopped, haunted by Kakashi's words echoing in his mind. How everyone in Konoha only used him for the Kyuubi inside, how all his friendships were lies. A surge of hatred and anger welled within him, recalling all the abuse he'd endured. He'd always endured it with a smile, hoping for acceptance, but now, knowing the truth, all he wanted was to return to the village and finish what the Kyuubi and Suna had started but couldn't. "I'm from the village of Konohagakure no Sato." "Konoha? I've never come across that name," Odin remarked, turning his gaze toward Naruto. "Tell me, child, where exactly is this Konoha?" he inquired, having existed in this world nearly since its beginning and never having encountered any place called Konoha. If such a place truly existed, he was certain he would have known it. Naruto stared at the two men before him, somewhat perplexed. How could they be unaware of Konoha, one of the 5 great shinobi nations and the strongest among them, renowned across the globe? "Konoha lies within the land of fire," he answered, noticing the men's puzzled expressions. "You've never heard of Konoha or the Fire Country?" he asked, eyes wide in astonishment. "Child, throughout my long life, I have never heard mention of a village named Konoha," Odin stated gravely. "Perhaps you hit your head when you fell from the sky, affecting your memory," the elder said, eyeing the blonde intently. "Wait, father," Thor interrupted before Naruto could respond. "Tell me, Naruto, does that village called Konoha use any special kind of power or ability you can describe?" he asked, prompting Naruto to nod. "Could you explain what energy or special skills the inhabitants possess?" Fixating on the two men and their unusual attire, Naruto quickly deduced a few things. First, the garments Odin and Thor wore did not resemble anything from the 5 great shinobi nations or any lesser ninja villages. Second, he couldn't recognize his current surroundings. Naruto harbored a secret no one knew. He was far smarter than he let on. From a young age, he'd studied the names, economy, and political structures of all ninja villages. Almost every night, he frequented Konoha's library, absorbing all he could find that might aid his ninja career. Yet, he never revealed this. Instead, he chose to appear foolish in class, the inattentive student, because no matter how well he performed on exams, his teachers always failed him by swapping his papers with ones full of wrong answers. Another reason he suspected he was somewhere unknown was because the place seemed more advanced than even the land of spring. He had seen what looked like flying ships overhead. So, watching the two men before him, Naruto decided to gather as much information as possible before making a move. "The energy we use is a blend of physical and spiritual power called chakra. It allows us to perform techniques known as jutsu," he explained, looking at Odin. Odin's eyes widened slightly upon hearing this. "Chakra? That's impossible. Only a select few, mostly great sages who trained for years, and some yokai born with it, can wield that energy," he said, scrutinizing the blonde. "Yet I sense no magic energy or yokai essence in you, child. In fact, I can't detect even a trace of chakra in your body," Odin remarked, studying him carefully. Thor glanced between Naruto and his father before speaking. That's because he doesn't belong to this world or even this dimension, father. I believe he hails from another dimension, one seemingly less advanced than ours, where chakra is used instead of magic. Odin shifted his gaze from Naruto to Thor. Another dimension? He questioned. Thor nodded seriously. You're insane, Thor. You're telling me this boy not only traveled between dimensions alone but survived the dimensional rift, a feat even powerful beings like us couldn't endure without the Bifrost, Odin said, looking at his son as if he had lost his mind. It sounds unlikely, father, but that's the only reasonable explanation right now, Thor replied, watching Naruto, who was discreetly eyeing the window for an escape. Don't even try it, Naruto. If you jump out, you'll surely fall to your death. Even I couldn't survive that. Naruto was startled that the man knew his intentions at a glance. Odin stroked his white beard and said, If you truly come from another dimension, we must ensure you pose no threat to Asgard or anyone else. The factional war is spreading far enough already without us worrying about an unknown invasion from elsewhere. He fixed a serious gaze on Naruto. I'm sorry, boy, but you'll come with us for questioning, to learn who you really are and what your motives might be, Odin said, stepping toward Naruto. Stay away from me, Naruto shouted, fearful as the man approached. Don't come near, he warned, but Odin ignored him. I said keep back, Naruto growled, his eyes turning completely white. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning shattered the ceiling and struck Naruto, engulfing him. Thor's eyes narrowed as the sky darkened and crackled above them. Odin, watching from below, grasped his staff firmly. Child, I don't know who you think you are, but you're no match for me, he said, stepping forward with his staff aimed at Naruto. I told you to stay away, Naruto's voice deepened, filled with power. Raising his right hand, he aimed at the two men, surprising them as a beam materialized in his palm. Odin and Thor's shock deepened as the beam shot forth, striking both and hurling them backward through several walls. After sending them flying, Naruto collapsed onto the bed, breathing heavily, staring in disbelief at his hands. Like me, he began, but his eyes whitened and he lost consciousness. Odin and Thor cautiously approached, stepping through the debris. They were stunned not only by the power behind the blast, but also that it injured them. Returning to the room, they found Naruto unconscious. What just happened? Odin asked, moving closer. Thor looked upward as the sky cleared. What happened, father? I think I've just found my new successor, he said with a smile. Odin looked puzzled. Successor? Yes, father. This boy will be the next thunder god of Asgard. Thor declared, glancing at Naruto's still body, which had swelled slightly after the lightning strike. Naruto's blue eyes fluttered open, and he realized he was still in the same room, except now there was a large hole in the ceiling. A gentle female voice spoke nearby. I see you're awake, young one. He turned to see an elderly woman who resembled the blonde man from earlier. Don't worry, dear, I won't harm you, she said warmly. No one here will. Naruto eyed her with suspicion. After the Valley of the End, where Sasuke and Kakashi betrayed him, trust did not come easily. Who are you, and what about the men from before? He demanded, watching as the woman calmly sat in his chair, smiling kindly. My name is Frigga, she said. The men you saw are my son Thor and my husband Odin. She stood, and Naruto instinctively took a step back, keeping his distance. As Naruto neared the window, he confirmed that what Thor had told him was true. Falling out of the window of his room would mean certain death. Even using his chakra, he doubted he could survive such a fall from this height. Chakra, he thought. Since waking up, he hadn't been able to sense his chakra. Closing his eyes briefly to try and feel it, nothing stirred. Instead, he sensed a different energy, much stronger and denser than his chakra. When he opened his eyes, the woman who had been there was gone. He searched around but found no trace of her. Looks like she left, he thought. Noticing the woman had disappeared, the blonde realized this might be his best chance to escape. Though now that he considered it, even if he did manage to get away, he had no idea where to go. Nor did he know where he currently was. Returning to Konoha was out of the question, especially after what Kakashi had said. Even if he returned, it was likely he'd be killed, either by the copying ninja or the old Hokage himself. Still, he couldn't remain trapped in this strange place. First, he needed to get out, then he could figure out what to do next. Opening the door, Naruto stepped into the grand hallway outside his room. As he moved forward, he heard footsteps and voices nearby, so he quickly darted behind a nearby pillar, hiding so no one would spot him. After a few moments, Two men in unusual golden armor with long red capes trailing almost to the floor passed by. Once the guards disappeared, Naruto relied on all he had learned about stealth from the Konoha Ninja Academy and his prankster days to sneak through the vast castle. The place was enormous, and it took nearly an hour to find an exit. During that time, he narrowly avoided several patrolling guards. Clearly, these sentries were skilled, as he nearly got caught when two guards stepped out of what looked like an armory. Fortunately for Naruto, no one discovered him during his escape attempt. After an hour of careful searching, he finally reached a massive double door left wide open and unattended. After cautiously checking the area to make sure no one was near, he stepped through the great golden doors. The moment he crossed the threshold, Naruto's eyes widened more than they ever had. He had never witnessed anything so breathtaking. The cityscape before him was far more magnificent than anything near his old home. The entire city gleamed as if constructed from gold. From his vantage point, he saw towering buildings reaching toward the heavens, with crowds of people walking below, many glancing at him with curious looks instead of the hatred he was used to from Konoha. Looking up, he noticed strange ships gliding magically through the sky. In the distance, a massive bridge stretched across, even larger than the one old Tazuna had built in the Land of Waves. But what really caught his attention was the bridge's radiant, rainbow-colored shimmer. Without a doubt, this view was the most impressive he had ever seen. "This is incredible," he murmured, staring at the sprawling city before him. "I've never seen anything like this." "Indeed, no place in the world compares to Asgard," came a voice behind him. Thor appeared quietly. "This is one of the most beautiful places anywhere," the god said as Naruto spun around, ready to fight, holding his hammer defensively. Seeing Naruto's stance, Thor raised his hands in peace and stepped back. "Relax, Naruto, I don't want to fight or hurt you. I just want to talk." Naruto met the man's gaze, sensing he was sincere, so he relaxed slightly but didn't let his guard down completely. "Fine, but don't come closer," he warned, turning back to observe the stunning city. "What exactly is this place?" he asked, puzzled. Nearby, a couple of girls around his age smiled bashfully at him. "This is Asgard, the realm of the Asgardian gods," Thor explained as he noticed the girls' attention on Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened even more. "Gods? You mean you and everyone here are gods?" he asked, astonished. Thor shook his head. "Not everyone. Many here are powerful beings with great abilities. Only my father, Odin, the father of all Asgardians, is the supreme god. My mother is the mother of everything. Loki, my half-brother, is the god of lies and trickery. And I am the god of thunder for now," he added with a mysterious smile. Naruto frowned, puzzled. "For now, what do you mean by that?" he asked curiously. "My father intends to step down and wants me to become the new All-Father, ruling Asgard as its supreme deity," Thor replied. "That sounds good. You'll be the new leader of this land and its people," Naruto said, recalling his old dream of becoming Konoha's Hokage, a dream now impossible. "Yes, but my place is on the battlefield. I'm not ready to sit on the throne yet," Thor said, stepping toward Naruto. The movement made Naruto instinctively step back. "Besides, I need to find a worthy successor to inherit my power and my hammer, Mjolnir," he said, revealing the legendary weapon. "And I think that person might be you, Naruto." Surprise and confusion washed over Naruto's face. "Me?" he stammered, pointing at himself. "Exactly," Thor said with a smile. "Now tell me, Naruto, what's the last thing you remember before you lost consciousness?" Naruto pondered, trying to recall. I remember an old man coming toward me, but nothing after that," he said, looking at the god. Thor examined Naruto before twirling his hammer and presenting it to him. "This is Mjolnir, a very special hammer. Only a few can lift it because of a powerful enchantment. Only those who are worthy and pure of heart can wield its immense power," he explained, as he placed the hammer on the floor and stepped back. "I want you to try lifting it." Naruto eyed the hammer, shrugged, and walked over. He bent down and gripped the handle. It was incredibly heavy, heavier than anything he'd ever tried to lift. Planting his feet firmly, he struggled, but gradually, the weight seemed to lessen until he could hold it up fully. "Huh, it's not as heavy as I expected," he said, tossing the hammer into the air and catching it with ease. "Feels as light as a feather." "That's because the hammer recognizes you as worthy and pure of heart," Thor said, watching. "It knows you aren't a person without darkness inside." Before Naruto could respond, the sky suddenly darkened. Looking up, he saw thick black clouds blot out the blue sky. Thunder roared and lightning streaked down all around him. He had to leap repeatedly to avoid the bolts crashing dangerously close. "What's happening?" he shouted, dodging another strike that nearly split the ground beneath him. It felt as if the lightning was targeting him specifically. Thor gave a slight smile as he watched Naruto leap again, narrowly dodging a pair of lightning strikes. "Relax, Naruto, everything will work out," he said calmly. Raising his hand and summoning lightning, it landed on his palm and he enveloped it completely. This is nothing compared to the power of the Naruto hammer. Whoever wields it can command thunder itself. Don't be afraid, nothing harmful will come to you. Gazing at the famed thunder god, Naruto nodded and allowed a bolt of lightning to course over him. As the electric charge surged through his body, he felt an overwhelming rush of power, mixed with a strange sensation he couldn't quite place, yet it made him feel strong, invincible, and alive. A tingling spread through his limbs as he looked down and saw his form changing, growing taller, gaining muscle mass, and being clad in an unfamiliar armor reminiscent of Thor's own. "Looks like the armor comes with the hammer too," he remarked, eyeing the suit covering his frame. "Exactly, Naruto. That armor is part of Mjolnir's power, along with flight, immense strength, and as I mentioned, the ability to summon and control lightning," the son of Odin explained, glancing down at his own hand and noticing half of his power was gone. "That's good, but egg," the blonde shouted suddenly, feeling a sharp heat spreading across his hand like a burning fire. Looking at Mjolnir in his grasp, he saw it shifting side to side, the metal glowing red-hot as if the hammer was struggling to break free. Reluctantly, he opened his hand and released the weapon, which flew swiftly back to Thor. The moment he let go, the burning sensation faded, leaving a large, ugly burn that quickly shrank and disappeared. Naruto looked up at the thunder god, confused. "What does this mean, Thor? Did Mjolnir reject me? Am I unworthy?" Thor's face showed genuine puzzlement as he studied the blonde. "Honestly, Naruto, I'm not sure why that happened," he admitted, examining the hammer in his hand before looking back at him. "But one thing's certain, it didn't reject you. If it had, you wouldn't have been able to lift it at all. I think you just need more training before you can fully master its power," he said, smiling gently at the now slightly taller Naruto. "So, what do you say? Would you like to stay and become my successor, the next god of thunder?" Naruto looked at the man thoughtfully. Staying meant starting over with a clean slate, no hateful stares, no mistreatment from peers or lies from friends, and no one knowing the nine tails inside him. Besides, he wasn't sure if he could return to his world, and if he did, he had nowhere to go. He had nearly been killed by his own teacher and teammates, and no one cared about him. He made his decision, nodding firmly. "Yes, Thor. I want to stay and become your successor," he declared with determination. He would grow stronger than ever, and if one day he returned to Konoha, those who betrayed, lied to, and tried to kill him would pay dearly. Unbeknownst to Naruto, the sky darkened further as more thunder rolled overhead. Thor smiled, oblivious to Naruto's dark thoughts. "Then get ready, Naruto. This will be the toughest and most intense journey you've ever faced," he said with a grin that made Naruto shiver slightly. 8 years later, Naruto crouched, deftly dodging a spear thrown by one of the Asgardian warriors encircling him. He summoned a lightning bolt with Mjolnir and struck back at the attacker. With his free hand, he caught a sword aimed at him. The wielder struggled to pull the blade free, but Naruto's grip was unyielding. "That was a mistake," Naruto said, lifting Mjolnir high and smashing the soldier hard in the chest, sending him crashing unconscious into a wall. "I might have gone a bit too far," he thought, glancing at the fallen man. Had he struck harder, the outcome might have been fatal. Scanning the battlefield, Naruto saw only 40 of the original 100 remained. Gripping the hammer's leather strap, he swung it overhead rapidly, creating a small, swirling tornado. The guards' faces turned pale as a fierce grin spread across Naruto's lips, visible even through the storm. Rising into the air with the vortex spinning around him, he loomed threateningly. "Oh no," one guard whispered just before a lightning bolt blasted through his chest from the swirling tempest. Grinning behind the whirlwind, Naruto released the hammer to spin violently, crushing anyone attempting to flee or fight back. Facing a group of 5 guards, he raised his hand expectantly. They turned, paling as Mjolnir hurtled toward them. The hammer struck from behind, sending them flying. Lowering his arm, Naruto caught Mjolnir just as it knocked down another attacker sneaking from behind, then rested it casually on his shoulder. Surveying the unconscious and groaning guards scattered about, Naruto smiled confidently. Come on, guys, why all the complaints? This is nothing compared to some of my other battles, he teased as some guards shot him annoyed glares. Since training with Thor began 8 years ago, Naruto discovered he loved fighting, not just fighting but defeating powerful opponents. Over those years, he had faced nearly every Asgardian champion Thor could offer, winning almost every battle except against Thor himself, his half-brother Loki, Odin, and a few Valkyries. Defeating the rest always brought a smile like the one he wore now. This is just fun. I wouldn't call this fun, Naruto-sama, a guard groaned, clutching his chest as he got to his feet. Only you would think fighting 100 men right after an 8-hour workout is enjoyable. Leaning against a wall, he loosened his armor for breath. Naruto laughed, recognizing the man as one of those he'd slammed with Mjolnir. Well, you said it, just 8 hours of training, he replied. Before facing the guards, Naruto had endured 8 straight hours sparring with Thor, resting only 15 minutes each hour. But you're right, it's not fun yet. Let's call this a warm-up. Take 5 minutes to rest, then we start again, he said, watching as fear crept into the eyes of those present at the thought of another round. I'm sorry, Naruto-sama, but I have a guard duty in half an hour, said a different sentinel than the one he had spoken to before. This one had dark skin and only one eye visible on his face. And I, added another. Same here, sir. My wife is about to give birth at home, so I need to be there with her, said another as he rose from the floor. I have to travel to the human realm to gather some supplies. I'm not even supposed to be here today. I'm currently on call. Naruto observed as his opponents one by one began offering reasons, some genuine, others clearly fabricated, to avoid fighting him again. Disappointment settled across the blonde's face as he looked at them all. That's a shame. I was planning to buy beers for everyone after training, he said, causing all eyes, both the guards on the ground and those standing firm, to widen. They quickly changed their minds, saying their schedules had been rearranged and they could stay a little longer. Fine then, since we're not starting over, he said, raising his hammer toward the sky. Lightning crackled from Naruto's hammer as he charged at the guards once more. Not far from Naruto's location, Thor watched the blonde's display. He noted how much Naruto had grown, surpassing anyone Thor had ever seen in his life. The blonde exceeded all his expectations in strength, endurance, and intellect, rivaling many seasoned leaders Thor had known over decades. Although progress was not without setbacks, Naruto had spent an entire year keeping people at a distance, both physically and emotionally. Anyone who tried to get close had been struck by lightning from the blonde's hand. But after a year, the walls Naruto had built around himself began to crumble. During his second year in Asgard, Naruto chose to reveal his past to the entire royal family. He recounted the abuse, mistreatment, beatings, insults, and every hardship he'd suffered back in Konoha. He also shared what Kakashi had told him and how the villagers only exploited him for their own benefit. Upon hearing this, it took the combined strength of Odin and nearly all the castle guards to calm Naruto, who had vowed to travel back to his original dimension and annihilate the corrupt village. Once calm, Odin promised Naruto that no one would ever hurt him like that again. To ensure this, Odin intensified Naruto's training nearly threefold, and the results brought a wide smile to his face. He pushed the blonde to his limits, and beyond with every session. Naruto mastered both swordsmanship and spear fighting, and gained such command over Mjolnir that he was almost one with the hammer itself. Most intriguingly, no one knew the younger blonde continued to train secretly, preparing to surpass even that. Thor narrowed his eyes as he saw Naruto begin to grimace. The Mjolnir had burned his hand again, signaling it wanted to be released. Thor lifted the hammer and examined it. Even after 8 years, Mjolnir still rejected Naruto after a certain time, and no one had discovered why. Watching the blonde fire off the guards to get some beers, then approach rubbing his already healed hand, Thor noted that even without the fox's power, Naruto's remarkable healing remained intact. Looks like you've reached your limit again. Now you can hold the Mjolnir for a full hour before it forces you to let go, he said, eyeing Naruto who stopped before him. Naruto met the man who had changed his life. Thanks to Thor's offer, he was stronger than ever before. He was certain that if he'd remained in his old dimension, he'd never have achieved such power. I still don't understand why this happens. I've proven I'm worthy to wield it, yet it still rejects me, Naruto said, staring at the long-haired man. I think I can explain that, came a familiar voice. They both turned to see Frigga, Thor's mother, smiling warmly at them. Since Naruto's arrival, he had transformed everyone's lives. By opening up and allowing others near him, he dedicated himself to helping in every way he could. Whenever he wasn't training, he was assisting anyone who needed it. In just 8 years, Naruto had earned a special place in many hearts across Asgard, including hers and her family's. Mother, Thor said, looking at the woman who gave him life. Have you finally discovered what causes the problem between Naruto and the hammer? After Thor had shared the issue with the family, his mother had examined Naruto seeking answers. Unfortunately, she had found nothing then, and spent years searching for a solution. Frigga nodded as she looked at Naruto, who kept his gaze on her. Yes, I just received the latest analysis on young Naruto, and thanks to it, we now understand why the Mjolnir rejects him, she said, creating a magic circle in her hand. A hologram of Naruto's body appeared within it for all to see. Naruto was fascinated to learn that the inhabitants of this realm did not harness chakra, but a denser, more versatile energy called magic. He witnessed its many uses and spells, some reminiscent of the fuinjutsus he had read about in ninja libraries. He learned several destructive spells, but none compared to his command over lightning and thunder, rivaled only by Thor himself. So, what exactly is going on between the hammer and me? He asked. According to the most recent data, it appears your entire body's chakra was replaced by magic. Even the beast inside you vanished, leaving behind only a large reservoir of pure magic, Frigga said, surprising both Thor and Naruto. This happened because of your brief time in the dimensional gap and your arrival in this world, where there isn't enough chakra to sustain yours. As a result, your body transformed all chakra into magic to keep you alive, which caused the cubite inside you to disappear permanently. She paused to ensure they followed. I understand that part, Mother, but why does Mjolnir still reject Naruto? Thor asked. I was coming to that. Actually, the Mjolnir isn't rejecting Naruto, it's the opposite. The hammer can't endure the immense power surging through Naruto's body. It tries to free itself before being destroyed by his strength. This means if Naruto doesn't release the hammer when it overheats, it risks shattering under his power, she explained, looking at the young blonde. Thor glanced at Naruto, knowing his power was immense. Greater still, as whenever he unleashed all his strength, his eyes changed dramatically, and his thunder control nearly surpassed Thor's own. So you're saying Naruto's power is too great for Mjolnir to handle, Thor said, prompting his mother's nod. Naruto gazed at his hands, focusing as they began to spark with intense electrical energy. Looking up, his eyes turned white and the sky darkened above them, flashing with storm clouds. He felt the raw power coursing through him, demanding release with fierce intensity. Closing his eyes briefly, he then opened them and bowed slowly. The storm clouds dispersed, his eyes returning to normal as he descended to the ground. Looking at the mother and son, Naruto spoke. So that means I'm not meant to become your successor, Thor. The man glanced at the blonde and noticed a hint of disappointment on his face. He was aware of how eager Naruto became every time he completed one of his countless training sessions aimed at becoming his successor. Everything Naruto had done, every step he had taken so far, was driven by that singular ambition. Looking at the boy's mother, he saw her nod in understanding. Don't worry, Naruto. Even without Mjolnir, you possess enough strength to one day claim the title of Asgard's next god of thunder. Naruto offered a faint smile as he looked toward the thunder god. Hearing someone call his name, he turned around to see one of the guards beckoning him to join them for a drink. Smiling, he glanced back at the mother and son. Go ahead, Naruto, have a good time, Thor's mother said before the blonde could respond. Thank you, my lady, he replied with a slight bow. See you later, sensei, he added, and Thor just nodded in acknowledgement. That boy is destined for greatness, Thor remarked, watching his future heir to the thunder. Indeed, I see a bright future for him, Frigga agreed, looking at the retired blonde. I only hope I live long enough to witness it, she murmured quietly before departing. 1 year later, 365 days had elapsed since Naruto realized what his powers were doing to Mjolnir. Since then, he had stopped training with it and focused more on mastering his vast and uncontrollable energy. Whenever the blonde was plagued by nightmares or intense stress, his power would erupt uncontrollably, wreaking havoc around him. On numerous occasions, He had destroyed his entire room during dreams, haunted by memories of Kakashi and Sasuke's battle in the Valley of the End. One such night, Thor tried to wake him, but their encounter turned into a fierce fight when Naruto opened his eyes and, momentarily confused, mistook Thor for Kakashi. When Naruto finally regained control, half the castle lay in ruins. The only solace was that no one was gravely hurt or killed. Many Asgardians who witnessed the battle began referring to Naruto as a god of thunder alongside Thor. Of course, the older blonde didn't mind and let them continue. Thus, Asgard now had two gods of thunder. At present, Naruto and Thor were traversing the lands of Nidavellir, the dwarf kingdom under Asgard's protection. Naruto had heard much about Nidavellir, the forge of the universe's most powerful weapons, including Mjolnir and the armaments wielded by Asgard's elite warriors and Valkyries. As they walked, Naruto observed countless dwarves, some crafting new weapons, others drunk or asleep. Curious, he turned to Thor. "So, Thor, what brings us here?" he asked, studying the smiling god. Thor's smile widened. "Do you recall what day it is today, Naruto?" Naruto was puzzled but answered, "October 10. "Exactly. Today's your birthday," Thor said. Naruto was surprised Thor remembered. Back in Konoha, his birthday had been marked only by cold stares from villagers and ninjas alike. To make matters worse, it coincided with the anniversary of the Fox's attack and Minato Namikaze's defeat of it. "As a gift, I brought you here to meet Eitri, the dwarf king who personally forged my hammer," Thor said, pointing toward a figure at work. "Speaking of whom, look over there." Naruto froze at the sight of Eitri. He glanced between Thor and the dwarf repeatedly before finally speaking. "You're serious about this, aren't you?" "What do you mean, Naruto?" "I don't follow," Thor asked, confused. The blonde pointed out the various dwarves. "That one's a dwarf, that one too, and another there." He then gestured to the imposing figure of the dwarf king. "But that's a giant dwarf." Eitri approached, wielding a massive mallet. "What did you just call me, boy?" he growled. Naruto met Eitri's gaze without fear. Though he'd never met a dwarf before, he'd encountered giants far bigger and scarier than this king. "No offense, but you hardly look like a dwarf. Just look at your size, you're nearly 5 times bigger than everyone else here." Eitri studied Naruto for a moment, then smiled and clapped a heavy hand on the blonde's shoulder, painfully so. Naruto winced as the palm, almost twice the size of his head, pressed hard. "I like this one," the dwarf king said, patting Naruto repeatedly until the blonde nearly shouted in pain before Eitri finally stopped. "So Eitri, is it ready?" Thor asked, making the king nod. "It's almost finished, just a few tweaks left," Eitri replied, turning and beginning to lead them away. "Follow me." Naruto watched as the two men discussed something important. They approached a huge furnace filled with molten metal, the same steel used to craft Mjolnir, melting rapidly in the intense heat. "Damn, that's hot," Naruto said, stepping back. Eitri snorted. "Ninita," he muttered as he stepped toward the furnace. Naruto marveled as Eitri handled the molten steel with bare hands, flipping it without wincing. The dwarf king poured the liquid metal into an axe-shaped mold, then inserted a wooden handle that surprisingly didn't catch fire despite the heat. Seconds later, Eitri struck the mold hard with his massive mallet, sending sparks flying and metal ringing. Naruto was awestruck. He'd never seen weapon forging done on this level. "What is this, Thor? What's going on?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. "This is the weapon of a god," Eitri said without looking up, continuing his work. "The weapon of a god," Naruto echoed, bewildered. "Yes. When Thor learned of your struggles with Mjolnir, he asked me to craft a weapon capable of containing and controlling your immense power," the dwarf king explained, tracing a magic circle on the forging mold. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. Looking at Thor, he saw the older blonde smiling. "Really?" he asked, astonished. No one had ever given him anything like this before, only hateful stares and mockery. Thor nodded. "That's right. I promised you'd be my successor." Naruto fought back tears. No one had cared for him like this before. Since opening up to Thor and his family, he'd been treated like kin, or at least almost all of them. "Thank you," he whispered, though Thor still heard him. "You're welcome," Thor replied, watching as Eitri erased the magic circle and resumed hammering. After several minutes, Eitri stopped pounding the mold and faced Naruto. "It's ready. The only thing left is for you to strike it with your strongest lightning. Show me your full power, the power Thor boasts of," he said, stepping back. Naruto closed his eyes to focus, his body crackling with electricity. Both Thor and Eitri stepped back as lightning and electrical energy shot from him in every direction. Even the dwarves working nearby ducked for cover from the brilliant bolts. So much power. Incredible, Eitri said, watching in awe. Yes, but that's only half of Naruto's strength, Thor added, surprising the Dwarf King. There's more? Eitri asked, nodding to Thor. Indeed, that's why you were tasked with building this weapon. Mjolnir could never contain or control such overwhelming force. Naruto's eyes changed, now nearly white, the blue fading to match the sclera. In his hands, he formed a massive electric sphere nearly the size of his body. Seeing the mold beginning to cool, he intensified the sphere before releasing the full blast against the axe mold. For a full minute, Naruto unleashed the most powerful lightning he'd ever summoned. When he finally lowered his hands, he sank to one knee, exhausted. Though he hadn't used all his power, the effort was immense. He hadn't exerted himself this much since his last fight with Thor. Eitri dashed over to the axe with a grin on his face. Noticing it was glowing red-hot, he struck it multiple times with his mallet, breaking the mold and revealing to everyone the magnificent weapon he had just completed. Before everyone's eyes, the weapon began to levitate and spin, casting small beams of light in all directions. Gradually, it rotated closer toward Naruto. Observing this, the Soul Uzumaki in Asgard lifted his right hand and grasped what would become his new weapon. The moment Naruto touched the axe, he instantly felt all his fatigue vanish, as if it had never existed. Rising, he twirled the axe a few times before resting it on his right shoulder. Perfect, he said, glancing over at the Dwarf King. What's it called? He inquired. Stormbreaker, Eitri answered while meeting the young blonde's gaze. It sounds a bit flashy, Thor commented, eyeing Naruto's weapon. It's a weapon worthy of a god, just as expected. A second Mjolnir, Eitri replied, looking toward the Odinson. No, I meant something simpler and humbler, the wielder of Mjolnir said. It can also summon the Bifrost, Naruto added, surprising both blonde men. Really, what else can this axe do? Thor asked, intrigued by the weapon in Naruto's hands. Are you jealous? Eitri teased, glancing at the older blonde. I'm just saying the name sounds a bit over the top, that's all. For me, it's the perfect name, Naruto said, admiring the axe. Besides, Naruto was cut off as a powerful lightning bolt tore across the ceiling above them, striking him and bathing the entire area in intense light. When the glow faded seconds later, everyone noticed Naruto had changed slightly. His eyes were no longer their usual blue, nor the electric blue they flashed when he unleashed his power. In fact, his eyes seemed to have vanished completely. Where his irises and pupils once were, now lay solid white orbs, resembling paint-filled orbs. Occasionally, faint sparks of lightning flickered from them. His attire had also transformed, now resembling armor similar to Thor's but darker and with subtle differences. His physique had altered too, his muscles slightly bulkier than before. Thor studied the change and couldn't hide his surprise. Naruto, are you all right? He asked, concern in his voice. I feel great, actually better than ever, Naruto replied, inspecting his new armor. What happened to your eyes? Eitri questioned, eyeing the strange white orbs. Normally, his eyes shift to a whitish blue when he uses his powers, but I've never seen them disappear like this, Eitri remarked, puzzled. My eyes? What's wrong with my eyes? Naruto asked, confused. He felt nothing unusual. In fact, his vision seemed sharper now. Without waiting for an answer, he grabbed a nearby sword and held it up to see his reflection. What the hell? He muttered, hands going to his face. Where the hell are my eyes? Despite their disappearance, his sight was clearer than ever. Do you feel any discomfort, irritation, or anything strange in your eyes? Eitri asked. Naruto shook his head. No, nothing at all. Thor glanced at Naruto thoughtfully. It seems Stormbreaker not only lets you unleash all your power freely, but also alters your appearance, similar to what Mjolnir does. That might be true. Every time I wielded Mjolnir, it felt like something was holding me back. But now, all my power flows without restraint, Naruto said, closing his eyes briefly. When he reopened them, his eyes had returned to normal and all changes vanished. Looking down at the massive axe in his hands, he frowned slightly. Is something wrong, Naruto? Does it bother you? Thor asked. It feels awkward always carrying it around like this. Then why not use a transformation spell to turn it into something else? I do that all the time with Mjolnir. Watch, Thor said, conjuring a magic circle and transforming Mjolnir into a simple mahogany staff. Naruto smacked his forehead for not thinking of that. He mirrored Thor's spell, transforming Stormbreaker into a necklace which he then placed around his neck. Yeah, this is much better, he muttered. Well, now that that's settled, let's get out of here, Eitri said as he started to leave. Before the Dwarf King fully departed, Naruto bowed. Thank you very much, Eitri-sama. Eitri only turned his head and let out a low grunt before exiting completely. Thor placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, straightening him up. Congratulations, Naruto, Eitri likes you, he said, leaving the blonde confused. He's a complicated guy. If he didn't like you, he'd have smashed your head with his giant mallet the moment you called him a giant. Naruto paled slightly. He had already received a couple of pats on the back from the dwarf and nearly had his shoulder broken. He didn't want to imagine what a blow from that mallet would feel like. I'm glad that didn't happen. You definitely don't want that, Thor smiled. But putting that aside, it's time we head home, Naruto. Naruto nodded and turned to leave. Oh, and by the way, Naruto, Thor called, making the blonde stop and look at him. Happy birthday, he said with a smile. Naruto smiled back warmly. Thank you very much. A single tear ran down his cheek. Naruto soared across the dark sky of the human world, a realm he had completely fallen in love with since his arrival. As he flew, he couldn't help but compare this world to his own. The modernity, technology, the people, even the animals, all were different from where he came. The air itself felt cleaner here. Unlike his home, there was no constant tension or fear of war. Although humans had endured 2 world wars long ago, those were distant memories. The only ongoing conflict was the war between 3 factions, which had lasted for many years. Naruto had studied all he could about each faction, their powers, abilities, weaknesses, and leaders, but he still couldn't understand why they remained locked in battle for so long. It all began when Lucifer and his 72 followers rebelled against God. As punishment, their white wings were scorched, and they were cast to the depths of the earth, to a place now called Hell. Once angels, they became demons. Shortly after, many other angels started questioning God's judgment and sinned themselves, resulting in their banishment too. But unlike Lucifer's followers, their wings were stained black rather than burned away. These fallen angels, symbols of sin and corruption, were cursed beings to be destroyed along with the demons. To Naruto, the endless war seemed utterly senseless, losing thousands on all sides over ancient grudges for expulsion from heaven. Since arriving in the human world from Asgard, Naruto had encountered members of many races who attacked him first. He defended himself easily, but this unsettled Odin, who worried that such actions might provoke retaliation against Asgard by the factions. As punishment, Odin forbade Naruto from returning to the human world without permission. As usual, Naruto ignored this order and acted according to his own judgment. While flying, Naruto spotted something unusual below. A red-haired demon and a silver-haired female demon, both exhausted and surrounded by fallen angels wielding spears of light. Calmly observing, Naruto considered helping them, but he knew aiding them might embroil Asgard in a conflict. Ignoring them was the logical choice, yet he struggled with the thought of doing nothing when he had the power to intervene. He didn't know the demons, but the red-haired one had bravely shielded the silver-haired girl from the attackers. Descending swiftly, Naruto cursed his own hero complex, the part of him that compelled him to save anyone in danger. Everyone in Asgard warned him this recklessness would get him killed one day, but he didn't care. Both the demons and the fallen angels were taken aback when a blonde youth, gripping an axe and with glowing white eyes, descended from the shadowed sky and stood amid them. They all stared, unable to place him. They didn't know who he was but were certain he was neither angel, fallen angel, nor demon. Naruto, for his part, glanced over the black-winged figures before speaking. Good evening, gentlemen. Could any of you possibly explain what's going on here? He asked, fixing his gaze on the fallen angels. Who are you, some kind of demon sympathizer? One of the fallen angels demanded, furrowing his brow. No, just a traveler who happened by and stopped to see what was happening. That's all, Naruto answered calmly. In that case, I suggest you keep moving before you end up dead along with these filthy demons. Another fallen angel warned, summoning a spear of light aimed at the blonde. Naruto looked at the speaker, then back at the demons behind him. Are you all right? He asked, and both nodded in response. Hey, are you even listening to me? The fallen angel shouted, but Naruto ignored him, still addressing the demons. Enraged at being dismissed, The fallen angel nodded to his men. Though Naruto continued ignoring the man, he kept him in his peripheral vision. Seeing the silent signal to attack, he raised his axe skyward, summoning a storm of lightning that cascaded down, forming a shield around them all and blocking the spears of light. The fallen angels recoiled. They knew of only one who could wield such power. "That was rude," said the god of thunder, turning to face the one who ordered the attack. "Perhaps you don't realize it's cowardly to strike someone from behind or while they speak to others." "You're Thor, the god of thunder," muttered a fallen angel nervously, fearful that the Nordic gods had joined the conflict on the demon's side. Naruto shook his head slowly, lowering his axe. "No, I am not Thor." "Then who are you?" the man asked, relieved he wouldn't have to fight Thor, known as the strongest of the Nordic gods and supposedly rivaling their leader Azazel. "That's not important right now. What matters is I'm giving them a chance to retreat and leave," Naruto said, staring the man down. The fallen angel grinned and leapt forward, manifesting 2 spears of light in his hands. "I don't care who you are, but if you want to protect these demons so badly, why don't you perish with them?" He sneered, hurling the spears at Naruto. Naruto sighed, annoyed at how no one listens when he tries to reason. He swung his axe, slicing the first spear cleanly in 2. With one hand, he caught the other spear, much to everyone's surprise. "That was a mistake," he warned, crushing the spear effortlessly. "I offered them a chance to leave and they refused. Now they will pay." Before anyone could react, the fallen angel who attacked was lying on the ground, decapitated. Usually, severed heads cause blood to spray wildly, but Naruto's strike was clean and precise, electricity crackling along his Stormbreaker to prevent any mess. Tossing his Stormbreaker up, he charged his hands with electricity and aimed at the remaining fallen. Lightning bolts shot from Naruto's palms, piercing the angels' chests and delivering swift, painless deaths. Just as he prepared to strike another, a holy beam hit his chest, sending him rolling. "I admit that stung a bit," he said, rising unfazed. "Now it's my turn." Leaping, he raised his axe skyward. A lightning bolt struck him, imbuing him with even more power. Sweeping his Stormbreaker from side to side, he unleashed an electric wave that swept across the battlefield. When the dust settled, all the fallen were dead and headless except for the 2 demons. "Well, that's finished. Time to go," Naruto said, noting only a scattering of black feathers remained. Why do their bodies vanish after death? He wondered aloud while flying away. Maybe the gods made it so that when they perish, their forms disappear to keep humans from finding their bodies and experimenting on them. "Wait!" Naruto stopped mid-flight when he heard a voice. Looking down, he saw the red-haired demon calling to him. Descending, he listened as the demon introduced himself and his companion. "I want to thank you for saving me and Graphia-san. I'm Surzech Gremory and this is Graphia Lucifuge." "No problem," Naruto replied, about to leave but was stopped again. "Hold on, at least tell me your name and Graphia-san's," the redhead requested, eyes fixed on the blonde. Naruto considered, then descended fully to stand before the red-haired youth, who seemed about the same age or at least similar in appearance, as demons age slowly. Naruto Uzumaki," he said. "Pleasure, Naruto-san, I'm truly grateful for your help, but may I ask, are you a Nordic god?" he inquired, causing Naruto to narrow his eyes slightly. "You figured it out?" Naruto asked, tightening his grip on Stormbreaker. "Only the Norse wear that kind of armor, and your power closely resembles Thor's," Surzech explained, eyeing the axe. "It could be you're descended from Thor. Many humans lately have Nordic or other divine blood. But your strength is too great to be just a descendant. There's also a theory you might be a sacred gear-bearer that would explain your armor and command over thunder." Naruto stared silently a moment. "He's sharp, figured me out with just a look," he thought, noting the redhead's smile. "I'm Nordic, yes, but not a god." "That's impossible. Your power is godlike," Graphia said, opening her eyes wider. "My power rivals a Nordic god's, but that's all," Naruto said, flashing his eyes at them. "Anyway, I must be going." Surzech nodded. "Nice meeting you, Naruto-san, and thanks again. Hopefully we meet again someday." "As I said, it was nothing. Whether we cross paths again, who knows," Naruto said, levitating away. Back at the castle that had become his home, Naruto tried to slip inside quietly. He didn't want anyone, especially Odin, to discover he had traveled to the human world again without permission. If Odin found out, he might lock Naruto away in one of Asgard's many prisons. "Sneaking out again," a voice said sharply. Naruto froze, recognizing it immediately. Turning, he grinned nervously and scratched his neck. Heh, guess you caught me, Thor. You know you're forbidden to leave Asgard without permission, Thor scolded sternly. I just went for a little walk. Asgard's great and all, but I wanted to see the human world and how much it's changed, Naruto explained, looking at the older blonde. He loved Asgard but couldn't stay confined all the time. He needed to stretch his legs and explore. Besides, since gaining Stormbreaker, he hadn't found a worthy opponent besides Thor and a few warriors, which bored him. Being stuck here is dull, plus no cable TV yet, he joked. Thor stepped closer, placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder. I get it, Naruto, but you can't just sneak off like that alone. Naruto lowered his head slightly. Next time I'll come with you and show you how to leave and enter without being noticed. Really? Naruto asked, eyes wide. Thor nodded, glancing around. I was a young adventurer too. Like you, I wanted to see the world and find strong opponents. But I learned my place is here in Asgard, especially since the three-faction war started. Doesn't mean I don't sneak out sometimes though. I'll teach you how to do it without Odin or Heimdall noticing. Placing his arm around Naruto's shoulder, Thor began walking. Now, tell me everything you've been up to. Naruto smiled, following his companion as the god led him onward.